Unplugged Army, it's time to register for the LPGA Ford Championship at Whirlwind Golf Club. Go to FordChampionship.com and you can either buy tickets, or an even better deal would be to volunteer. This is the biggest event on the calendar, calling all generals and really anybody that's even a private in the Unplugged Army. Please volunteer for the 2026 LPGA Ford Championship at Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass, and help the world to feel the wind.
Thanks for listening, Unplugged Army. I'm Louis Unga, General Manager at Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. We're proud to present Doug Franz Unplugged.
Four-minute offense.
4-minute offense.
4 minutes.
4-minute offense. 4-minute offense.
Everything you need to know in sports that affects Maricopa County, the state of Arizona, and the world, you get in 4 minutes. We start things off in Tucson, Arizona. U of A got back to looking really good. They beat BYU 75-68 behind Anthony Del Orso looking great off the bench. 22 points on 8 of 15 shooting.
Yeah, it was great, of course. I mean, I think everyone, multiple guys had great games, not just me. I think everyone's feeling good. It's good to get a win like that at home, after the week we went through and the guys out and, guys coming back stronger and healthier.
Karchenkov was great too. Good defense, 18 points, 7 of 12 shooting, and 7 boards. Up next, U of A with their toughest test of the year. On the road at number 2 Houston, Saturday at 1 o'clock. It was Meet the Coordinators Day yesterday at the Arizona Cardinals football facility. But 12 News' Cam Cox did get a question into Mike LaFleur about Kyler Murray.
Yeah, those, just like everything else in our roster, just open conversations right now throughout this building. No time frame on that.
Actually, there is a time frame. On the 5th day of the new league year, over $30 million of his contract for 2027 becomes guaranteed. Today is the last day of spring training before games actually start tomorrow. Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo was thrilled to work out in the rain yesterday in Scottsdale, since obviously the Diamondbacks never have to deal with that at home. Spring training games start tomorrow. The Diamondbacks are the road team at Salt River against the Rockies at 1. Suns general manager Brian Gregory met with the media for the first time since the preseason. He was asked what he thinks of Devin Booker and Jalen Green as a combo backcourt now that they're both healthy.
I think pretty good. His explosiveness, his ability to get to the basket, his feel for the game. I think those two guys together are going to form one of the best backcourts, if not the best, in the NBA, as they get to play more and get a better feel for each other. He brings a lot of stuff that at times that we're lacking, so I think his fit is going to be really good.
Up next, they take on the Spurs in the Texas Capitol this evening at 6:30. Now your NFL news. The estate of Paul Allen has officially put the Seahawks up for sale. Pat Mahomes restructured his Chiefs contract, saving Kansas City $45 million of cap space. And Adam Schefter first to report the 49ers are going to be the home team in an NFL game in Mexico City. What's crazy about that is they're already the road team in a game in Australia. One day after the resignation of Tony Clark as the executive director of the MLBPA, their chief negotiator, Bruce Meyer, was promoted from deputy executive director to the interim executive director position. His first meeting as the interim director was in surprise with the Royals, where he said, "We will fight against the salary cap that the owners hope to implement in this coming offseason." College hoop news, JT Toppin did injure that knee at ASU. He tore his ACL. He's out for the year. And friend of the program, Steve Lavin, got bad news. He was fired at USD, the University of San Diego. Upsets last night. Unranked Creighton beat UConn in Connecticut. Number 19, Vandy stole the inbounds pass at midcourt and hit the rim, but it didn't go in. They lost by 1 at unranked Mizzou. And a slight upset based on the rankings. Number 25, Bama won in double overtime at home against number 20 Arkansas. Scottsdale's own Austin Matthews got the assist on the game-winning goal in overtime as the United States beat Sweden 2-1. Quinn Hughes scored the game winner and also assisted on the first U.S. goal. The U.S. advances to the semifinals against Slovakia tomorrow afternoon. The U.S. got 3 medals yesterday, one of each variety. Michaela Schifrin, gold, women's slalom. Men's team sprint got the silver, and Jake Kanner and men's slopestyle got the bronze. The headliner today is the U.S. women against arch rival Canada for the hockey gold medal this morning at 11. And finally, this is one of my favorites. Guy in Bozeman, Montana, has an open container violation. So he goes to the police station to pay the fine, and the sheriff asks him, "Did you drive here?" Well, the man says yes. The sheriff asked him because he was acting drunk. The follow-up question, how many drinks did you have? Of course, the man said the obligatory 2 drinks. And then he threw in, and I smoked 2 bowls of marijuana. They asked if they could give him a breathalyzer. He blew 3 times the legal limit. They went to impound his car, and they found another open container in the car. So this idiot drives to the police station drunk to pay for a previous open container with an open container. Listen, I get there's nothing funny about drunk driving, but there's something very funny about idiots and crooks driving themselves basically into jail. So we're all safer.
Hello, this is General Tom. I love Bell's Nashville Kitchen because they support Doug Franz. They were the original sponsor, and I relish the podcast that I give each day almost as much as their fries.
Bell's Nashville Kitchen on Main Street in Old Town Scottsdale.
You found home, down home.
Hi, I'm Angie with Penny Royal Promotions. We decorate blank apparel, screen printing, embroidery, direct to film. Also, we provide promotional products, offset printing, tents, canopies, banners, business cards, anything you can put a logo on. Okay, Unplugged Army, if you own a business, you have an upcoming event, a charity function, golf tournament, we're the official provider of the Unplugged Army. Ask for Angie. I'm this year's euchre champion.
Are you sitting down? I asked that question because I already know this is going to be a long show today. We've got Cardinals coordinators. We've got Brian Gregory talking to the media, the GM of the Suns. And it's a Bobby Mack Thursday with spring training baseball starting tomorrow. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever it is that you decided to make Doug Franz Unplugged a part of your day, my family greatly appreciates it. My name is Doug Franz, and you have found the only podcast in the world totally devoted to the coverage of the 4 major sports franchises of one great American city that drops on your phone each and every weekday morning. We also cover ASU, U of A, GCU, the Rattlers, the Rising, and the Mercs. This is Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass, home of the 2026 LPGA Ford Championships. How are you? I'm in a wonderful mood. Hopefully I can bring a little bit of energy to your day, and I appreciate it when you give it back to me on some of those days where the show just isn't as good and there isn't a lot of energy coming from me. Good to see you. Please don't forget about all of our events that are coming up, because I certainly need everything I can get from you. If I can get every event, great. If I can only get one, please choose one that you can do or that you have time to do. And obviously, man, all of them are important. Newest sponsor, we want to welcome somebody in. So with Slice House with Tony Gemignani coming up on February 28th, try to stop by there if you could. I'll be there for lunch. The number 1 sponsor is Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. That's our presenting sponsor, and they have all their chips in the basket at becoming the home of the LPGA for years and years to come. Well, how do we help them do that? We attend the LPGA Ford Championship, which is also driven heavily by Santan Ford, which is also a big sponsor. So you can see why that is so important. I learned from General Mike that if you are a Whirlwind Plus member, you get 2 free weekly passes to be used. I mean, think about that. For only, $300 to become a Whirlwind Plus member. And all it takes is you about 3rd or 4th time you play golf at Whirlwind, you've made money on the deal. And when you combine all the prizes and free stuff you get, man, this is a no-brainer to become a Whirlwind Plus member. April 1st is our Play Like a Pro Day, where I did get a couple emails yesterday, but they've started to trickle in, but they're not really exploding in, and I still have plenty of tee times for you. So please, let's get that sold out. April 1st is the event. It's only $50 to play, and it's normally a $200 course. So that's just for us. Again, April 1st, tee times start. They start at 1, but everybody wants to go early, so therefore the close ones to 1 o'clock are all sold out. But we still have a couple left over in the back. So please join us for that. And then May 7th is when we have Unplugged Army Day at the ballpark. So I'm excited to see you at one of those events. Today's show, the reason why today's show is so full is I want to play a lot of stuff for you from BG, Brian Gregory, the general manager of the Suns. We've got the U of A game to go over from Tommy Lloyd. We've got a lot of coordinator talk from the Arizona Cardinals with Nathaniel Hackett and Nick Rallis and Mike LaFleur all talking. So we have that, and it's a Bobby Mack Thursday in which the Arizona Republic's #1 sports columnist joins us. Just to yap, talk sports, have a good time. So that's everything that we have got going on, and that's why today's show is pretty packed. I'm going to tell you a quick story yesterday. This was so strange. I just can't even explain it. So yesterday is Ash Wednesday, and in the Catholic religion, we don't eat meat on Ash Wednesday. And it's also a day of fasting, so you only get one meal that day. And so I'm always just starving that day. Now, also, part of the rule is you're not really supposed to go do something expensive. Like some Catholics will, every Friday go out to a really expensive seafood place. Well, that's not really sacrificing. What did I do? I went to an expensive seafood place. The mother-in-law, which is kind of funny with all the crap I've given her over the years, but the mother-in-law gave me a big check for my birthday. And I'm driving home from the bowling green. I'm thinking BG, from the Brian Gregory press conference. And I'm starving. And I know with Ash Wednesday Mass coming up at 7 o'clock last night, I'm now going to be kind of in a weird spot to interview Bobby Mack. So Bobby Mack and I agree we'll do it at 5 o'clock. So I'm recording with Bobby Mack at 5 o'clock. I'm driving home from the Brian Gregory presser at about 1:15. And I'm thinking, when am I going to have time to eat? When there's no way Jennifer usually makes dinner. And there's no way she's going to be able to have time or energy to make dinner. And there's no way I have time because I need to start watching the U.S. game against Sweden in hockey. So I remember this expensive seafood restaurant in Goodyear that I've never been to, but intern McKenna worked at last summer. So I thought, well, I'll give that place a try. So I walk in, really nice looking place. And I order a bowl of soup. It's really good. And I'm watching hockey. And every now and then I make a little outburst, cheering for my team. And the bartender asks something about, is this good? And she meant like whatever happened in the game because I was happy. And I said, yes, I was born in the United States of America, so I'm rooting for the team. And she goes, I said, the team in blue. And she goes, oh my goodness, I just saw hockey. I didn't know it was the Olympics. And I said, yes, the other team is Sweden, and all of their players are in the NHL. And she goes, well, of course they are. And I'm like, I wasn't going to explain. Like, no, of course that doesn't happen in which a smaller country has all NHL players just because Sweden's that good. So I didn't say that. And then I don't know why I felt the need to throw this out there, but I said 3 of the boys on the team are from Scottsdale. Well, now these 2 women that are sitting at the edge of the bar, they were very quiet, but man, they had this thing figured out. I didn't know this. It was half off wine on Wednesdays. It was a wine Wednesday. So with half off the wine, these two women basically split 2 bottles of wine. I saw them get a second bottle. Now, the bottle wasn't a huge bottle, but they had quite a lot of wine. And when I said that, one of them that was really attractive turns and looks at me and smiles. Like a really nice smile, like a smile I haven't seen a woman flash to me in 25 years. And she looks right at me and she says, "Are you from Scottsdale?" I said, "No." She stopped smiling and she turned around and continued her conversation and never said another word to me. Come on. Come on. How is that not the weirdest thing? I think I got hit on for the potential of being from Scottsdale. So I think it was, yes, you're an ugly man, but if you're from Scottsdale, that's all right then. Oh, you're not. She didn't even say, oh, you're not. Oh, she didn't even say, oh, I am. As soon as I said no, she just turned around. I wasn't worth any more of her time. That was fantastic. It didn't bother me. I'm watching the game. You got to pray for her. There's issues there. There are issues there. But it's great to know that I look like I had money. It's like somehow I just present myself as a guy with money. You would think I would have done something about my hair if I had the money to do something with it. But that was my entertaining moment of my life yesterday. All right. Again, lot to go over today. Can't wait to talk to Bobby Mack. Just so you know, when I talked to Bobby Mack, though, I had not listened to the coordinator conversations yet. So we'll do the coordinators after the Bobby Mack conversation. But first, it's time for Doug's Big One. It's my number one opinion of the day, and it's Biggie-Sized by Wendy's, where you can get the Biggie bag for $4, $6, or $8. But you might want to head to Wendy's now, because for a limited time, they've got the Thin Mint Frosty Fusion. You choose vanilla or chocolate, and you get Thin Mint Swirl and Thin Mint cookies in your Frosty at your participating Wendy's. And they've all been told to participate. I don't know that to be true. Doug.
Doug. Where's Doug? Here, sorry, Doug. Where are you at?
Yeah, was that a plug to unplug right there?
Doug had given me a stat.
Well, I can only answer the questions that get asked of me, Doug.
Obviously, Franz is such a good player.
Doug's Big One. I'm sorry to do this to you. It just happens to be my number one opinion. You've heard it. I know that you've heard it. But last night, there was an incredible level of validation to this opinion. Somebody in college basketball has got to accept that the 40 minutes of hell from Nolan Richardson, bring it back. It will succeed like crazy in this modern era of basketball where everybody just shoots threes and layups. So many of the basics are not there. And last night, it was fascinating to watch. Fascinating. I'm watching Vandy Mizzou. Mizzou is up fine, doing great. All of a sudden, Vandy gets the ball. They hit a three. They trap. They get a layup. They trap. And Mizzou kid under the basket just throws it up in the air. Son, the clock doesn't start till the ball's touched. I think he thought the clock was, just going to run out while the ball's in the air. And a kid from Vandy catches it, turns it mid-court, shoots it, hits the rim. So close to going in for a miracle victory for Vandy. Watching ASU try to break the press at the end of the game and the god-awful turnovers they had. at the end of the Texas Tech upset. And then yesterday, U of A was really bad. I love this question. It was a very simple question in the press conference to Tommy Lloyd. What'd you think of your press breaker? What was funny about his answer is that doesn't seem like the type of question you're going to get a long, drawn-out comment from Tommy Lloyd. And, man, he didn't want to stop talking about it.
Yeah, it could be better. It could be better. I mean, it's just, it's so interesting at the end of these games. I mean, watching a lot of these college games, and it just seems like it's not as clean as it could be. And as a coach, it's tough because you want to call timeouts and do that, but you have a limited number of timeouts and you need to save a timeout for a challenge at the end of the game. So sometimes, when you're up 7 or 8, you're just trusting your guys can get through it. And so we can clean that up. We can be better. We have good enough players to do that. And we need to obviously make that more of a priority. But I know this. Every basketball fan thinks their team is the only team in the world that struggles at the end of the game versus press. Okay, welcome to every college basketball program in the country. Okay, so that's just kind of what it is. And I was watching a game last night between two teams we know well, Arizona State and Texas Tech. Both of them struggled against the press. It's just kind of how it goes sometimes. The thing I don't know if you guys factor in, if you can press and you only have 2 or 3 team fouls and you can attack the ball and it's your ball on a jump, think how aggressive you can be. You could be super aggressive and there's no repercussions. It's tough sometimes, and you would hope that when you're sitting in my seat that the ref just blows his whistle, but then you blow your whistle and you're like, oh my God, it's only 3 team fouls. We got to do this 3 more times. So it just gets tough. If teams have lots of chances to basically blitz and attack you, without any repercussion, yeah, it can be tough. But we figured it out there a little bit towards the end, but I'm sure there's going to be, some great learning opportunities.
Every team in the country has trouble with the press. I was watching Alabama-Arkansas went into double overtime. And the amount of panic that was going on at the end of that game. Alabama had a 2-0 lead. Arkansas put up a 3, and nobody boxed out. They just sat there and watched. And of all things, I've never seen this. Arkansas lost the game on a missed dunk. Kid got the rebound, and it wasn't a natural, easy dunk, but he dunked it into the back of the rim, and the ball went screaming towards midcourt. Bama caught it with about, 3 seconds left, and the clock ran out. And again, that's not about a press, but it is about the sense of panic that comes over kids. They just don't work on it nowadays. There isn't time. Your players are too new. And I know it'll work. Man, I'd almost like to have Graham Rossini ask me, "Kate, do you want to sit down with our next head coach, whoever it is?" Since I couldn't convince Bobby that I was right on it. This is kind of Doug Smallwood, but this will be the best NCAA tournament you've ever seen. When I see the game that Del Orso had and the fact that they won without Koa Pete, and I'm assuming Koa Pete comes back healthy for the tournament, that's a Final Four team, but who knows if they can win it. UConn lost last night, but there's an argument there that they're a Final Four team. I swear Texas Tech would have been a Final Four team. Obviously, Michigan. It's not crazy to think that Purdue could pull it off, even though they've got a couple flaws. There's so much. Kansas, if Peterson's healthy, definitely a Final Four team. There's just so much goodness right now in college basketball. And yet every team, including Michigan, has a flaw in there that can be exploited in the NCAA tournament. If you're not a bracket person, man, fill out a bracket this year. No one's going to know. And by the way, we will have our Unplugged Army get together. I never gave away prizes, however, last year. So I've still got to make good on that. But remember, hashtag. It's not a hashtag, or maybe it is. I can't remember. The password is either hashtag Unplugged Army or it's Unplugged Army. I can't remember which one it is. Let's get to the U of A game itself here in just a second. But first, let me tell you about Santan Ford. Friends and family rate when you go to Santan Ford. Just email me, Doug at DougFranzUnplugged.com, whether you're in the market for a new or pre-owned car. but I want to tell you about how easy it is to use their service department. Number one, if you want the quick lane because you live in Gilbert, what's cool about that is a lot of service departments shut things down early. They stay open till 7 o'clock every weekday. So that's awesome. Number two, you can use the mobile service. If you go to santanford.com and just click on mobile service, well, then you open up an avenue to schedule someone to come to you to change your oil, to do simple maintenance. I do it every time now. I go to either Trophy or 100 Mile Brew, and I get somebody from Santan Ford to drive over, change my oil. I'm sitting there working, having an A Mountain Amber Ale, greatest beer in the history of the state, and my oil's changed. It's simple. When you go to santanford.com, I am Santan Ford. U of A winner 75-68. They were pretty much in control of the game throughout, especially when Del Orso started going off in the first half. He had 22 points off the bench on 8 of 15 shooting. And that is so exciting because he's had quite a few bad shooting games that I would not label as the end of the world. But I have to tell you, the Tucson media, they have not been jerks in any way, but they have been acting like this kid's a lost child or something. I mean, the way they ask questions, and constantly you hear Tommy Lloyd say, guys, Deli's going to be fine. Deli's going to be there when we need him. He's working through some things. He will be there. He will be there. He will be there. Tommy Lloyd never backed down on his expectations of Del Orso. And last night, I would say he was the number one reason why they won. Maybe you could argue it was Karchenkov's combination of 18 points in his defense. Bradley's 10 assists didn't hurt either. But in a game in which Debanza went for 35 and was an unstoppable force, you had to have that production from Del Orso. And they also, it was almost like they lost Toby Awaka, because now that Awaka was moved into the starting lineup, he wasn't the same force in that game. I've been telling you for a long time, that guy is too much for any bench to handle. But now with Pete on the bench with the leg injury, when Awaka starts, he's not quite as effective, at least not in game one of him as a starter. We'll see how he does going forward. I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent to start. I'm just saying he just blows people away who are your bench players when he comes in. Well, Deli's 22 was absolutely enormous. I don't want to say annoying. Was absolutely enormous. And afterwards, it was funny listening to Tommy Lloyd. He didn't say, see, I told you so, but he said, see, I told you so.
Kept telling you guys, I mean, I'm no panic. I think Deli's he's gonna be ready to deliver when we need him most. And obviously couldn't have predicted that 2 or 3 weeks ago, but today there was a significant need and he stepped up. And, I want to give Braden a lot of credit. Braden's not feeling well. He's going to be fine, but he really battled, through that game. And, it's been a tough couple of days for him. So, to have that kind of competitive character to, come out and play for your team when you're not feeling great says a lot about Braden as a competitor and a person.
I forgot that he had said that about Braden. So that's another reason why I really like that team. You know me, I don't root for them. I don't like them, but I mean, from the standpoint of the way I want to see basketball played, I really like that team. They play it the right way. They do a lot of good things until like I said before, until the press breaker kind of fell apart. But what you saw, I think you could say that you saw a little, I don't want to say better effort from the standpoint where they weren't trying in their 2 losses. But it was almost like they struggled with the adversity of the moment for the first time, especially in the game against Texas Tech. It was like, hey, we usually punch people in the face here in Tucson and they go away. Why do you keep coming back? And that's when the pressure started to mount. Press breakers started to be a little bit of a problem. With the BYU game, it seemed like it got back to just attack. Just attack. And then by doing that, it makes it appear that the effort is better. And it worked.
Gritty win by our guys. We knew it was going to be tough. Obviously, we're going through it with injuries right now, and it's just that point of the season where sometimes you hit a little struggle. If you don't embrace it, you're not built for it. So our guys have done a good job embracing it, and I thought there was good wherewithal and just finding a way today. I knew it wasn't going to be, aesthetically pleasing every second of the game, but to be able to kind of control the game later in that second half. Wish we'd have closed it out a little bit better, but if you watch college basketball, it seems to be a theme. But to withstand a player like AJ, having 35 points easy and come out on top was a great effort by our guys.
I don't really have a deep breakdown of this game. It was just U of A was better. Bradley with the 10 assists. Maybe everything changes if Richie Saunders was healthy for BYU, but it was pretty. I don't want to say easy, but it was pretty clear that U of A just wanted to make sure that BYU didn't get hot from the outside and throw bodies at Debansa, do our best to be able to handle him. Everybody took a turn in guarding him and just showing him bodies, trying to wear him down, showing him bodies. While with the way Del Orso was shooting and Karchenkov was playing overall, they had enough, and they were controlling everything throughout the game. The Houston game is up next on Saturday. Wow, on that one. That's really where we're going to learn what did U of A learn from the past two games. What are they going to take away from those two games? And I think this is a really important game because I admit I don't really care about the Big 12 tournament. I do in the sense of it's going to be great basketball. But as we project U of A to a potential Sweet 16 Final Four national championship team, I think this is a game where you do want to send a message to the world and specifically to Houston. I mean, you're playing the number 2 team in the country in their building, and you're supposedly number 4. What are you going to do about it? I think it is important to send messages across the country when you want to win a national championship. I think it is important to announce your presence with authority, to make Michigan say, okay, we beat Purdue. What are you going to do? Oh. And this weekend is insane. You've got U of A, Houston, 4-2. And then you've got Duke and Michigan in Washington, D.C. That's one weekend of college basketball this weekend. Oh, my gosh. Is that crazy? One other thing from Tommy Lloyd, it was pretty funny. One member of the media made a big deal of, well, obviously this was a huge win for you guys because you got in that big post-game huddle, and you guys normally don't sit there and do a big post-game huddle. So what was said in the big post-game huddle? He seriously said the words big post-game huddle at least 4 times. And then we learned about why the big post-game huddle really wasn't that important.
We were waiting for TV, so that's why we were stuck out there. Trust me, I wish I was back in the locker room. This was a program win today, and what you mean by that is, we knew it was an important game for the journey, we want to be on, and we wanted to get back on the winning side of things and do the winning things. We really challenged everybody in our program, from the staff to the managers, to the walk-on practice type players, to the guys that were injured, and to the players on the court, like, let's step up and find a way and do this together. We don't need a script. We just need to go out, and we need to go out possession by possession and find a way, and that's what they did today.
It was mentioned quite a few times in the ESPN broadcast that, including BYU, And I don't know why you wouldn't have included Kansas and Texas Tech before that. But it said U of A has the third toughest schedule the rest of the way in all of college basketball. I think that's crazy that it's only the third. I don't believe that. We talked about it before, but it's still so amazing. Their stretch run at Kansas, at number 9 Kansas, home against number 16 Texas Tech, home against number 23 BYU, at number 2 Houston, at Baylor, home against number 8 Kansas, home against number 6 Iowa State, at Colorado. 2 unranked teams, but they're both on the road in Baylor and Colorado. And everything else is a top 20 team, except for BYU, who's number 23 with a top 5 with a lottery pick. I mean, come on. They play, if you count Kansas as 2 different teams, they play 4 teams in the top 10 to finish. 4 teams in the top 10. At Kansas, at Houston, home against Kansas, home against Iowa State. That thing, I don't have time to kind of look it up and say, well, whose schedule is tougher the rest of the way? But that's insane. That's an insane way to finish. And that's why I really don't care about the conference tournament, but I'm going to love watching it. But I mean, as we project U of A forward, it's more about this game against Houston, sending that message, and then riding that coattail to the number 1 seed and then doing all the damage that you can. The last one from Tommy Lloyd, this is more whether you're a U of A fan or not. So if you're an ASU fan, you've been dying to hurry up and get this segment over with. We can go into this. I really like the way this was said. Because of the pressure and because of the way that they were playing, the U of A crowd was really into it. And Tommy Lloyd has made suggestions in the past about how passive U of A fans are. It's, U of A fans have seen so much good basketball in their history, obviously not over the last, few years before Tommy Lloyd, but they've seen such good basketball. Sometimes a U of A fan at the game, and I've only been to 2 U of A games at McHale, so I'm not an expert. But when I was there, and mostly when I watch it on TV, I just get the feeling a lot of U of A fans are like, been there, done that. So you're not impressing me because I've seen other U of A teams do what you're doing. And the problem with that mentality is that kid on the court didn't see it. That kid on the court knows that there's a history here, but that kid on the court doesn't really care. They care about the emotions of the right now. And you can definitely pick up your team and create energy where there is none just by being a completely into it fan. And I like what Tommy Lloyd says here because he straddles that line of, hey, U of A fan, you did good, but keep this in mind.
I think our fans underestimate their impact on the game. I really do. And we have great fans. Moments like this, you need to galvanize behind the team and you need to pull them through. You don't need to wait for them to excite you. You need to do things to try to energize them. You got to be proactive as a fan, and we have great fans and they love basketball and they've been showing up every game. They're awesome. But right now, we need them to dig a little deeper to help us dig a little deeper. And today they did. I thought they did a great job today and key moments in that game of really helping us, pull through.
I think that is so well said because he doesn't blast the fans because, you get the Karens of the world that are all upset. The coach said bad things. He said, I'm not a good fan. And you don't listen and try to figure out, well, is it true? But I like how he put it.
I think our fans underestimate their impact on the game.
He's not saying you're a bad crowd. He's saying you're more important than you realize. I mean, how cool is that? Think about how that changes the tone. He's saying the exact same thing. Do more. You're not doing enough. And he's really been on this kick since his first trip to Allen Fieldhouse. Once he had his first trip to Allen Fieldhouse, it's actually complimentary the way he's staring down Tucson, because I think he honestly believes they can bring that same level to a U of A game that KU fans brings to a Jayhawk game. I don't think that's possible, but obviously it's in his self-interest to try to make it so, and that's why he's doing it that way. But I listened to that, and I thought that is the perfect way to handle it. That famous conversation of Phoenix and the state of Arizona bandwagon fans. I like how that's phrased. You can say that for a while. I think fans underestimate the impact they have on the game. Well said. Now, if you're a player that's waiting for the fans to pick you up, you're part of the problem. But on occasion, everybody's going to be affected by it. Heck, I was Mr. Run Through a Wall. No matter what, I have to win, I have to win, I have to win. But my sophomore year in high school, I was, not at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, I was the starting wingback. It's a position for people that use words in soccer positions. Nowadays, I would be called a 3, but I was a starting wingback. I had made a mistake that gave the other team a goal. They scored again, and it was 2-0, and then we scored, and it was 2-1. And it was weird. We were playing at a high school called Fairborn, and it was so far, the crowd was up against this massive hill, and it felt like they were so far away. There was no stands on the bench side of the field, but there were huge stands and it built into a big hill on the other side of the field. But gosh, it felt like they were far away, and we hardly heard the crowd throughout the game. And once we scored, the referee is talking to the other team's coach. You're setting up for the kickoff. And we could hear the crowd chanting, "We won another one, we won another one, we won another one, Eagles." And it was so weird because it just came out of nowhere. Like, we've never heard you say that chant. We could hardly hear you during the game. And it really did pick you up. Like, okay, here we go. And we played harder. And then they scored a goal again, and we lost. Lost 3-1. But I remember the crowd. I remember the effect that it had. So I love how he said that.
I think our fans underestimate their impact on the game.
I think it's such a good comment. I'm gonna mention it to Torey Lovello next time I'm talking to him at a press conference, just to see what he says about Diamondbacks fans in that same sense. All right, coming up next, it is the world famous Robert McManaman. Bobby Mack will be joining us, lead columnist, Arizona Republic. And we're talking about everything on Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. The word nothing is actually a good thing when you call Parker & Sons heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. You see, the nothing is you don't pay for a weekend fee, an emergency fee, a nighttime fee, or any other made-up fee. Of course, you pay for the service, but Parker & Sons doesn't charge you like you've inconvenienced them to help you. When you have any issues with your heating, cooling, plumbing, or electrical, there's one place to call, 602-2-REPAIR. That's 602, the number 2, then REPAIR for Parker & Sons.
It's big, it's juicy, it's meaty. Get your burrito at Burrito Express. If you're having a hangover, a bad day, even a good day, still get your burrito at Burrito Express. It will make you feel better.
Okay, Unplugged Army, it is a Thursday, and therefore it's a Bobby Mack Thursday when Bob McManaman, Arizona Republic, is always cool enough to spend a couple minutes with us. And he even adjusted his schedule to me today, since I am running off a little bit and in a lot of different directions on Wednesday night on the day that we record. You know, the U.S., however, won in overtime with a Scottsdale boy on the ice when the winning goal was scored, even though Austin Matthews didn't get it. I don't know if you watched.
I watched everything until it went to overtime, right?
Yes, it did. It did.
Yeah, I had to leave and go in my car to interview a dude from CBS Sports who's a college basketball analyst.
Oh.
And as good as he was, I kind of wish he would have waited for me to watch the end of that game. Who scored the goal?
That is a great question. It was Hughes that scored it.
Oh, great. All right.
Yeah.
One of the brothers.
Well, none of the Scottsdale boys, but still, it was. I was still a little bitter that we didn't control the puck in the last few minutes of the third. Instead, of just kept turning it over.
I did watch the whole game up until overtime.
That was.
You know,
who did you interview?
Chris Walker, CBS Sports.
Yeah.
For an upcoming men's basketball look ahead to March Madness. He was great. I love him. First time I've talked to him, but watched him. I know you probably have.
Yeah.
Longtime coach, assistant coach, interim head coach. He was great. But I kind of wish we could have put it off a little bit, but he had to cover a game Wednesday night, so.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's on a time crunch. You know, speaking of college basketball, after the amazing performance Tuesday night of ASU, you know this market better than anybody. Is it just about the coach? Is it just about getting people together? What's the game plan to get ASU basketball? I'm not even asking it to be like U of A basketball, but why has ASU for 400 years never been able to either A, get successful, or B, when they have, sustain it?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Would you guess administration more than fan base, or fan base more than like I have always said when it comes to the pros, it's up to the team. You've got to prove to the fans why they should spend money. In college, I've been the reverse, and it's more because I didn't create the system, but the system is created. You must put the cart before the horse, because without a strong fan support, you're not going to get the best coaches and you're not going to get the best players. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of everyone saying, well, we stink, so I'm not going. Well, guess what? You're going to keep stinking.
Well, I think a complete rebuild of the arena would be a start.
Amen to that.
And I've talked to Graham Rossini. I know you have too, because I've seen you at press conferences with him. And I haven't been to as many as you have, but I'm going to. Renovations are one thing, complete tear down. I'm not talking east wing of the White House kind of tear down, but I guess I am. You know, build a new stadium that's going to bring some people here and make it magnificent. And there's my dog.
That's fine.
My son.
There's a lot of members of the Unplugged Army that are dog lovers, and I so totally agree. I'll never forget when Dr. Crow actually said, now this was 3 years ago, so maybe he's changed his mind, but when he actually said there's really nothing wrong with the arena, and I'm sitting there watching old people struggle to get up and down the steps without any railings, no real working elevators that can be used for different people, hard to access seats. And when he said that, it was so out of touch with reality.
It really was.
And that was bad. And I was really worried when we were at one press conference together, and Graham said the building has good bones. And he talked about 1970s concerts that were there.
Ned Wolk.
And I love Graham. I think he's a great athletic director, but I had to admit that sounded like a guy that's resigned to the fact that the university won't let him build a new arena. So he's trying to sell the old one. And
money isn't always an issue everywhere you go, whether it's NIL with Willie Bloomquist, Molly Miller, Bobby Hurley, God rest his soul soon when he's departed from the coaching role, not in life.
Yes.
I know he's a good dude.
I think he's a wonderful
Kenny
dude.
Dillingham too. Yeah.
That's the thing, because, the downer ASU fan says, look what Kenny Dillingham did, so therefore everybody can do it. And I think that dismisses the miracle that Kenny Dillingham is doing.
And yet, I would just caution, and I love what Kenny's doing over there. You know, he's got to be able to sustain that for you to continue with that modus operandi for everyone to believe it, including his recruits and his AD and his president. You can't live off of one miraculous season, although some coaches have, Herb Brooks. God rest his soul. You've got to deliver every year and not just be an also-ran. And I think Kenny can do it. And I don't know who the next ASU men's basketball coach is going. I think Molly Miller is going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in her. Look, my interaction with her has been minimum, but just talking to her, you feel something about what really is going on and going to happen in the future. And Kenny Dillingham the same way. But money drives all, sadly, and not unspectacularly in this world of sports, even in college sports. So until you change the dynamic there, I don't know if you're going to make change in the men's basketball program or really anywhere. Here.
Brian Mueller would punch me in the face for this, but if you got Molly Miller from GCU, why not take their men's coach too?
Well, okay.
I mean, Bryce Drew is coached in the SEC, and I think it was Vandy, and I don't think that's a very easy job, although they are top 25 now. He's obviously doing something really well. They've swept San Diego State this year, and San Diego State was in first place before their game on Tuesday night, and it looks like he's building something good, and you got great things coming from Molly Miller. Man, that school would lose their mind to think of themselves as an ASU minor league feeding ground.
Right.
But, why not?
Great way to make enemies, though, isn't it?
It would be. But I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I hate that Bobby is going to go, but if I'm the ASU athletic director, I can't remotely justify giving him another contract. So I understand it and accept it. But then you get that terrible conversation piece of, is this a good job? I mean, what are they going to do?
That's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Is it a good job?
I'm asking you. You're the expert. You've been here longer than me.
I did cover men's basketball, and it was under the Bill Frieder era.
Okay.
So let's move on. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, there's a guy that left Michigan for this job. Obviously, thought it was going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and then chaos soon followed.
Yeah.
And that was a horrible time. And look, they're still kind of recovering from that. And, they drew fans. And then, Bobby drew fans, and the crazy kids on the court behind the backboard. We've all seen how good it can be. Sustainability is something completely different. And ASU is not going to be Duke or North Carolina. I'm sorry.
A lot of people would get upset at me when I was on air. Luckily, the Unplugged Army is a little more understanding. But when I used to talk about the Phoenix sports fan, I would always say, it's none of my business if you go. But the reason why most of your teams stink is because you don't. Right. I realize you've got in my opinion, a bad owner with your football team. You had years of bad ownership under Robert Sarver. There's been a lot of issues, a lot of years of bad leadership with Arizona State. And then, of course, the worst ownership group ever is anybody that owned the Coyotes. It seemed like they had 9 of them in a row. But I say that and still say, if there was a strong fan base, you probably would have better owners wanting to own things. Was I out of line when I used to think that? Am I wrong?
I think winning solves everything, and you know that. Do you need a good owner to win?
It's true, yes. I think for the most part. I mean, you can get lucky. I look at it like this. Okay, let's look at football. You got an owner, you got a GM, a head coach, a quarterback, and a left tackle. I think you need 80% of those to succeed.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Think about how rare it's been. The Cardinals have had 80% because sadly, for the most part, 20% is already out the window. So you've got to nail GM, head coach, and whatever. But when I'm negative on Michael, I always tell people this. I do believe any human being can change. He can at some point realize I'm not good at this and hire a president to run the team. The problem is he's never been self-critical enough to look at himself and say, I'm not good at this.
And I don't think he ever will.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's his right as an owner and inheritor, I should say.
Well, that brings up another question. Is it his right when he's playing in a state-funded ballpark?
Well,
how much say do we get?
Stadium built.
Yeah.
So I salute him for that. If we didn't have that, the team would be desolate and still playing at ASU. No, ASU probably would have kicked them out.
Yeah.
And they would have went to some other state.
Maybe gone to Vegas before the Raiders.
Yeah. So, look, State Farm Stadium is pretty cool. You would agree with that.
I think the outside's disgusting, but I think the inside's fine.
I do miss seeing you at training camp every year. Those were some of my favorite days, just if I may interject. You and your sandals and shorts.
I was always running to soccer practice, and I would always get ripped for my getup for.
I didn't mind it at all because I was wearing shorts too.
Yeah.
Just I haven't done this. You want to know why I don't wear sandals anymore? Because in Flagstaff, when the Cardinals had training camp there back in the day, which were great.
Yes.
We'd all get out of town, and it was cool. It was outdoors. Fans were aplenty.
Yeah.
But I was, as everyone basically back then, on the sidelines. You got your notebook and your straw hat, waiting for the afternoon showers, umbrella stuffed in your pocket, the little ones. And then wearing sandals on a sideline during football practice outside the flag was not conducive to your toes, because one day Lorenzo Lynch, one of the hardest MFing safeties ever that came down the pike for the Cardinals, intercepted a pass and then cleated my foot and broke every bone in my toes. And I got to go into the training room with the Cardinals. Johnny Omohundra, our great longtime old trainer, wheeled me in, gave me all kinds of medicine.
Did he actually shoot you up, or did he just give it to you some pills?
Yeah, it was pills with a little tray. It's like a cafeteria line.
Yeah.
I can't remember the year, but I remember the toes never really got better. And you know who was behind me in line? It was Buddy Ryan's team. Jim McMahon, the backup quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Mack was behind me. He goes, "Bobby Mack, what are you doing in the trainer's room?" I said, I pointed down at my purple and blue and red toes in sandals that now were swollen. He goes, I said, "Lo Lynch just cleated me on a pick about 30 minutes ago." And I look back and I go, "What are you in for? You're not on any injured report." He goes, "Just getting my daily meds, Bobby. Just getting my daily meds." Well, yeah. Those were the days. I haven't worn sandals since. Although I might if you ever get to show up again. Let's make a pact.
That's something that's up to the members of the media in this city, that somebody has to hire me in order for me to get in, because
I'll start a petition drive.
They don't love me very much, Bobby Mack.
I love you.
Oh, thank you.
And your sandals.
Yeah, if we had a media boycott that said no one's covering training camp until Doug's allowed in, I think out of I don't know how many people there are. Let's say there's about 80 members of the media.
Not about 12.
I'm guessing 3 would not go for a day. And then after that, like, okay, Doug, we tried.
Well, I could help soldier the cause for you, Doug.
Well, it would be you, Cam Cox, and Mark McClune.
Yeah, we love you. Yeah. Everybody else loves you too. Come on.
Oh, no, everybody's good to me, but would they actually, boycott? No way.
Well, I don't know. Can I get fired for boycotting? How about we just start a petition drive?
There you go. You could
strongly worded letters and phone calls.
You've got a lot of good writers at the Republic. If all of them ended their their stories, no matter what the story was on. You know, Nick Pecoro covering the Diamondbacks.
Let Doug in.
Yes, just end every story. Hey, Cardinals, set Doug free. You know, it'd be great.
Well, I think they already set you free. I think you want
That's
to get
true.
back in.
Yeah. I want to get imprisoned again, I guess.
Let me work on it. Let me see what I can come up with.
Oh, that's fantastic. Just tell me, here's the joke. Tell me how fast the no is. Do they even think about it or not? That's next week's edition.
Yeah, it's probably a non sequitur, no email return. I would start with an email. Yeah.
Probably.
Then
were you at Cardinals this week? Did you go to the coordinator get together?
No, I had to do my CBS Sports interview with my guy.
That's right.
And it was on his schedule, so I had to wait all day until he said when it was a good time. So I had told my peeps over at the Republic, I'm not going to be able to make to the coordinators announcement Wednesday. So then they're like, no problem.
That's on the agenda tonight, but I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know about it.
You know, I caught Hackett's interview snippets, parts of it. And I will say that, you know, LaFleur's calling the plays. Hackett's the OC. What does it mean?
Yeah,
I like what I heard from Hackett. I will say that I thought him saying the helping a veteran outside presence helping a first year coach, but he made it feel important to me when I listened to it, and that I'm going to show him what to do, what not to do, what I did that didn't work. But some of the things I did do that could have worked, I love the self-effacing and yet positive spin he put on it. Look, he was a thing for a long while, and then, you know, things kind of went south in Denver and New York. I think I'm going to love this guy.
Yeah, I'm not judgmental on that hire.
I'm going to really love this guy.
Yeah, I'm not judgmental on that hire because of the point that you made. If he was calling plays, I would lose my mind. I'd absolutely lose my mind. But if you're there in a support role, and you know, it's not like LaFleur is this great play caller, but I think it's fair to say we don't know, because whenever you spend time with the Jets, how do we know? You know, I mean, it doesn't count. You're basically playing football in the Big East. You know, you're not really playing NFL football. So I accept it that I'm not going to judge him by any of that. So yeah, you can be in support. I'm really interested, and I know Nick Rollis would never directly answer the question, but it's like, why are you here? You know, did you not get anything anywhere else, and that's why you're here? Did you want to stay? Was it a hard conversation? Because I would have to imagine both sides aren't really thrilled with each other. You fired my boy. I'm not happy about that. You don't give me the best resources. You don't really sign the best players, yet your team stunk. Your side of the ball stunk, and it didn't look like a lot of guys got better. So, you know, how can the Cardinals be happy with him? You hear a match made in heaven. This seemed like a marriage from hell right now.
Talking about Nick Rollis.
Yeah, Rollis and the Cardinals being together. Yeah. I have to assume neither side's all that thrilled with 2025.
No, because it cost the coach their job. I mentioned this elsewhere, and I'll say this again publicly, that I think Michael Bidwell finally listened to the fans and did what he thought the fans wanted, which was get rid of Gannon. And is that a big thing in this town when the owner listens to the fans? Because the cries for him to go were constant from everywhere, but especially the fan base, which he's lost, by the way. And he's got a hell of a lot of catching up to do to get him back, if he can. Keeping Rollis was not uncomfortable for me, because I forecasted it weeks ago, starting the day after they fired Gannon, and noticing that his name, along with several other assistants, were still on the team's website. And every other day I checked, and they were all still there, including him. So I've said it publicly elsewhere on channels and platforms that don't be surprised if Rollis is back. Would Vance Joseph have been a better choice? Would he have even come? to a lateral position, I wouldn't leave Denver for Arizona.
No.
Did Nick Rallis have any other real no one connected his name to any new openings, and there were tons of them. Is Nick Rallis a good DC? I think that's an open-ended question. I think he was and had glimpses and hints of it, and then it went to crap in a heartbeat, especially last year. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse, but that contributed to the downfall of that team and the coach's demise. But I'm not going to throw Nick Rallis under the bus. I think if it doesn't get fixed right away, and there's no reason to think it will, he could be a scapegoat after this year.
There's so many fascinating things because the timing of everything seems off to the point where everybody gets blamed. Here's what I mean. You are firing your head coach. Okay. You've kept your general manager. Okay. But your general manager doesn't have a quarterback, and this is not a draft for him to get a quarterback. It doesn't seem like he's done a very good job in the draft, which is why you fired Steve Keim anyway. So I would have to imagine, has limited amount of drafts. If Nick Rallis doesn't get the job, your rookie head coach is entering his second year with a new defensive coordinator in 2027. Right. And then do you really trust your GM? And then are you going to fire the GM and the head coach? Or are you going to say, no, I'm going to hire a new GM? And the new GM is going to be like, well, wait, do I really have the power? Because you've already got your head coach in place. It seems really off for everything to kind of line up to be able to clearly judge who's successful and who's not.
Well, you made the point on a previous podcast. I think it was just recently that you think they should wait on a quarterback till 27.
I actually said that yesterday. I think maybe it was the day before, because I think I really wanted one this year. I wanted one to learn under Jacoby Brissett and then start in 2027. But the team is so bad, in my opinion. You need to use your draft picks in so many other places. It's almost like,
I agree.
I don't like any of the quarterbacks jumping up and down. I mean, sure, if Garrett Nussmeier or somebody is still there in the fourth round, okay, yeah, I'm not going to pass that up. But first 3 rounds, no. There's too many other spots that need work.
Why don't you like Ty Simpson, and how did he fall on his face?
That's exactly what I said yesterday.
I know. I was listening, and I want to know the answer to that.
That's my problem.
Did he fall on his face?
I want to talk to him, and I know I won't be able to, but I mean, if I'm the pretend GM, I'm bringing him in.
Go to Indianapolis. I'll fly you out there.
Oh, thank you. I want the hard question. Like, I would want to watch film with him and say, what are you seeing? Why did you do this? Why did you do this? What I'm hoping is it's a young man that started to see the season slipping away, and he took way too many chances. And your desperation for wins doesn't make that guy open. The read is the read. And how do you go from reading the defense as well to just being nothing? And I don't know if the defense has figured him out and they made changes that he wasn't able to overcome. And if that's the case, well, then he's not the quarterback I thought he was. But if it's a case where there's the leadership skills are there and he just tried to do too much, and he can explain to me, here's what I saw and here he is, and I thought I could fit it into that window, but he wasn't fooled. Well, then I'm kind of interested in him again. 2nd round, 3rd round, but I'm interested in him again.
Well, I saw Fernando Mendoza make plays that weren't there.
Yes.
All the time, especially at the end of games when they were in crunch time. The Miami QB, who I don't want, but did similar things.
Meaning Tua Tagovailoa?
No.
Oh, Carson Beck?
Yeah.
The Miami Hurricanes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean,
I like Carson Beck. I just don't like him early.
Nor do I. But I mean, there are guys who because of whatever connectivity they have with receivers and reading eyes and seeing and anticipating and everything you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can make that. And I've seen Ty Simpson do that. I've seen the Manning kid do it at times and, look discombobulated.
Arch got better as the year went on.
He did. And, 27 is a long way away to wait on your quarterback. And, tanking's been going on lately in sports, right?
I actually don't believe in tanking because I believe in evaluation. I mean, Devin Booker was in the teens. You didn't need to tank to get him. Kurt Warner wasn't even drafted. It's like a 50-50 split in the Hall of Fame between guys that were first-round picks and guys that weren't.
Luck in the draft besides Mendoza.
Yes, that's how I feel. So then it's a crapshoot.
But I'm saying, why wait till 27? Why not just trust yourself and develop a guy? And tell yourself you're going to develop them. And if it doesn't work out after 3 years, you move on. And you don't need a total rebuild and re-tear down again after 2023 with the Cardinals to do it. And, hey, this guy signed a 5-year deal, the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Monty's situation. I think he's two more years. I'm thinking. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. Not that they're going to make that public, probably.
I just really love the lessons of this year, Bobby. I love looking at a Sam Darnold in Seattle. And I'm not saying that this is easy, but right. I'm saying if I'm sitting in a draft room and I don't have a quarterback, I'm not suddenly going to say, let's draft Carson Beck because I don't have a quarterback. I'm going to say, I need a team. I need 2 guards. I need a right tackle. I need a corner. I need a wide receiver. Buda's getting old. I need a safety. I need a running back. I need linebackers galore. I need a run stuffing 3 technique. I have so many needs that I'm not going to say, hey, let's get a quarterback because we need to try to develop that one. I'm getting a quarterback because I believe where I'm drafting, you are the best player in the draft. And if he's not there, I'm not taking him.
But going back to your 20%, quarterback was one of those.
Oh yeah,
20, and it's probably more than 20%. I like Jacoby Brissett a lot,
and
he's young enough to me you can run it back with him. But if you don't have a backup young guy, and I'm sorry, Malik Willis. I don't know. I'd run it back with Kyler and Jacoby than that.
Right. And I admit it's hard to find them because, look at Sam Darnold. I never would have guessed his year in Minnesota would have happened the way it did. But I blast anybody who didn't see his year in Seattle coming, because I look at that like, Minnesota, what are you doing? That's an arrogant general manager who felt like I crushed it in the draft. I don't need help. I know I got my guy. Yeah. You don't screw with it when it goes that well as Sam Darnold did. So I realize I'm the only guy in town that didn't like Kyler a long time ago. And I mean the player, not the person.
Yeah.
I would have fallen in love with Sam Darnold then. Oh, Minnesota, you don't like him? Fine. I'm going to go. Let's have a quarterback competition, and right then and there, Darnold versus Kyler, and let's see who wins.
I think that Darnold's career was revived before Minnesota by the year he spent in San Francisco.
That's a very good opinion. Yep.
And that is where he sat and watched and learned and listened.
Yes.
Learned and listened. That's the key to growth in anything in life. And when you can do it in a situation like that with that staff, and things changed after that, but that was the key to his complete, I think, my opinion, just his reversal of fortunes. And I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
But those are far and few between. I mean, there's some guys, reclamation projects. I hate that word. We all use it.
Well, Daniel Jones was winning in Indianapolis for a long time, you have that, and that's what's happening, and it's funny.
Baker Mayfield. I mean, Come on, the original
absolutely.
guy.
And I think that goes to, again, listening. Just, he was not good in Carolina, but he spends one Thursday night with Sean McVay and comes alive. And then
that was
to your
huge for him too.
Again, it was. And to your
was
point,
his San Francisco moment.
It was. He listens to Sean McVay for about 4 months and starts to put it together again.
It lit a fire under him. And he
did.
said that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it takes. And you know what? There's people right now on a podcast somewhere. Think about this. There's an old radio guy and a newspaper guy doing a podcast saying the same thing about Kyler somewhere on the East Coast. That Kyler is the reclamation project. Right. and we're trying to push him out. I shouldn't say we. I am. I want him out.
I don't. I mean, I'm okay with bringing him back. I just don't know if he wants to.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Do you really think he could ever be a good backup quarterback?
I don't know.
I think he'd be a disaster because what do you want in a backup quarterback? Help the quarterback read the defense. Be a communication guy. Help the team. You know, when Kyler's hurt.
No, probably not.
Yes. Think about all the times Kyler's hurt. Do you see him with the earpiece talking to the OC, talking to the quarterback, talking to the team? No.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there.
I remember when Kingsbury let him call plays. Come on.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
He had the headpiece and the microphone, the wraparound thing like Madonna.
Yeah, that was once. That was once.
Once. It was like, all right.
Yeah, he never...
Maybe once.
I mean, you're only going to do that once. So that wasn't my point.
In when he was, I saluted him for just being on the sideline this year when he was hurt with the foot injury.
He was listening to music. I think he was listening to Oklahoma highlights or something like that.
All right. You're just so negative, and I still love you. I don't know why.
My wife has said that too before, so I understand that.
Yeah, I got to meet her one day and explain to her.
Yeah, she doesn't understand it either. Any other excitement? You fired up for the Diamondbacks? You fired up for?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, yeah. We got a big 25th anniversary project series coming up.
Oh, okay.
At the Arizona Republic.
What's your involvement?
Well, I'm writing a few of the pieces of the 9 innings. Every month we're going to have a thank you for asking for this little plug.
Yes. I want to know I want to know more. Are you interviewing like the Mark Graces of the world? Is that what you're involved in?
Yeah. Gracie's the best interview of all time.
Absolutely.
But we have a 9-part series starting March 1st, I think. And it'll run through October, and it's recapturing and recalibrating and remembering and recalling the whole step along the path of that wonderful championship back in 2001.
You know, it's really an interesting topic of, yes, the Marlins won 2, but they've mostly been a disaster. The Royals have won 2, but they had some rough times, but gosh, in the 70s, it was Royals, Yankees all the time. Blue Jays have won 2 and should have won 3, but we don't look at it. The Diamondbacks are one of the most successful expansion franchises in the history of Major League Baseball, and yet they don't get any credit locally or nationally.
Well, I don't know about that.
Meaning that you don't believe that they're that successful?
No, I believe they're successful. I don't know about credit. What does that mean?
I say, do fans really think of the Diamondbacks in those terms as, do you understand how hard it is to build a baseball franchise and how good they have been at most of their tenure?
Yeah.
Sure, the lows have been lower than almost anybody else.
Well, I'll equate it to the Suns, who've never won a championship, but have been there 3 times. And yet you look at their winning percentage, it's among the best in the NBA.
Yeah.
You can respect winning and tradition, even though our trophy case, Doug Franz, of Arizona professional sports, the Biggies, and no disrespect to the Mercury, the Rattlers,
right,
and whoever else I'm forgetting, because I love them too.
And the Rising have a championship,
Yeah.
but you're still right. The 4 big ones, we have one.
We have one. We're the Charlie Brown Christmas tree of championship trophy cabinets.
Well, and that goes back to my first question from the beginning.
Yeah.
Who do you blame for that?
I like to blame you because usually you're wrong about everything. I can't do that because you weren't here for all of it. I was though.
I haven't been here for any of it really because they wanted to know one and I got here in 07.
Yeah. I got here in 71, so you can blame me.
Okay. Do you think the media, do you think they'd be more successful if there was a New York or Philly type of media?
No.
Okay.
Because we're not Philly or New York. We're Arizona. We're laid back. We're cool. And we don't need that kind of nonsense. I don't think. You need to be critical and hard, but you can also be who you are and where you're from. Don't be somebody you're not. I've always tried to, at least in this role as of late, tried to bring the black hat, cap, whatever that is, to my gig. But you don't always have to do that.
Right.
This town doesn't. It's not who we are, Doug. That's why I'm not a fan. See, I'm just.
Well, yeah, but I don't want a hateful media. Like, I don't want people that are trying to catch Devin Booker in his latest Kardashian thing, or I don't want all of that.
TMZ for that. All right.
Yeah, I don't want the TMZ stuff.
We're not.
I don't want that.
National Enquirer.
I don't want that.
Even still around.
And I don't want the media guy that's trying to trap you into questions. Well, you said this, you said this, you said this.
Yeah.
But I love the Teo Mackie style. And we only have one. You know, I want more Teo in my life. I don't know if he thinks that's creepy.
No comment on creepy, but hoorah.
I want more. All right. Anything else on your mind? What's your next article on?
Teo Mackie on your show.
I would love to.
Why don't you reach out? You need his number? I got it.
Yeah. Send me his number. It's America. On this show, he's called America's Reporter.
Oh, I know. And I know he loves that, I think. No, I don't. I'll clear that with his agent over lunch.
Okay, good. Someday I'll be important enough to have an
Slice
agent.
House for that.
Thanks, by Tony Gemignani.
Yeah.
We got to go out there. It's in Gilbert though, so I'll drive.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Let me know about that mythical Suns game we're going to.
Well, we are doing that. Doing that.
You're driving for that too.
I'm gonna look for coming up in early March. We're going.
All right. All right. Just got to cover the women's Final Four, so don't make it too crazy.
Oh yeah. That's April, so you're good.
Oh, is it?
It's always the last weekend. It's always the Women's National Championship.
I know, Doug.
Is always the first Tuesday in April, if you're wondering.
Look at you.
Yeah.
What day is Groundhog Day?
It'll be February 2nd next year.
Oh, you're good. All right. You're still my friend.
Oh, thank you.
You missed it. You didn't say Happy Groundhog Day. I hate you.
No, but I was going to sing Sonny and Cher if you wanted me to.
No, I'll pass.
Oh, okay. Love you, sir. Thank you, buddy.
Right. Let's play darts again. Not.
You heard me say in the Bobby Mack conversation that I had not listened to or watched I forgot what I was thinking about. Oh, sorry. I just needed the jolt of the music there. That I had not had a chance to listen to the press conferences. There were 4, one with the head coach, Mike LaFleur for the Cardinals, one with Nick Rallis, the quote-unquote new defensive coordinator, I guess. Obviously not. One with Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, and one with the special teams coach. And quite frankly, I think special teams is very important. But I don't really care what the special teams coach says. So I admit to you openly, I didn't watch it. And if you want to go back and go to the YouTube page for the Arizona Cardinals, go ahead. Or they put everything up if you click on the button Press Pass at AZCardinals.com. Free plug for them since I take their sound a lot. But with the other three guys, there's a lot to go over. There's a lot to go over, and I did then watch them after I recorded Bobby Mack. So I thought I was going to say something brilliant. Nothing came out. Let's get to it. My number one takeaway before I actually get to the sound, I guess, even though I just said let's get to it. I don't know why I feel like I should just restart this whole segment. I seem kind of scramble around. Maybe I need to go get a Mountain Dew. And it's kind of early. It's only 3:04 in the morning, and think about how far along we are in the show today. So I'm kind of happy about that. But my number one takeaway out of all the interviews, all the press conferences, is just what a good man it seems like Nathaniel Hackett is. Now, from a results standpoint, I don't think he's a good coach. I'll just say it. You know, I look at some of the decisions he made as the Denver Broncos head coach in crunch time, that it was just flat out choking. I can't remember all of them. I just remember sitting there in amazement of how can you be this far along in your coaching career where someone thinks you're a head coach and you are that oblivious to clock management. That's what I felt like in watching him when he was the head coach at Denver. And he's obviously a disastrous play caller, although I will keep saying this, whenever you do poorly as a Jets coach, I'm not going to judge you. So that's my feelings of Nathaniel Hackett, of just what a good guy he is. And maybe he creates a bond and keeps a situation light that other people can excel. You know, there are some people in the world that really aren't that great at their job, but they're such a good person and they do so many things for other people that allows other people to do their job well. So you think, oh, this guy's exposable? This guy's disposal. Oh my gosh. Maybe I do need to stop and get a Mountain Dew. Maybe you're thinking at a business, this guy's disposable. You move on from him and production drops, even though he wasn't very productive. Well, maybe that guy was kind of the glue for everybody else. And I wonder if Nathaniel Hackett kind of fills that role. This is not the first question, but one of the questions to Mike LaFleur that kind of grabbed me. I think it was by Josh Weinfuss, ESPN, asked, what have you learned about being a head coach in the last 2 weeks? What's happened to you that's unexpected since this is your first time being a head coach?
Yeah, you got me there. I don't even you expect the unexpected a little bit. You know, you think you're maybe going to get someone, you don't. You think you're not going to have them because they have, I'm talking like assistants where they got great relationships somewhere else. Boom, they want to come, so you just never really know. I mean, these are individuals making decisions that's best for them, personally, whether it be they have family or not, and then professionally, so, I think the best piece of advice, I think I might have said it a couple weeks ago, is just take this thing one day at a time. Don't try to check a million boxes at once. Just kind of keep chipping away at this thing, build the staff the right way, get to know these players. And then once we get that all done, obviously we got the combine next week. We got that whole month of March before the owners' meetings where we get 4 solid weeks of foundational, football schematically, and then all of a sudden the players are here. So loaded question right there, loaded answer, but, expect the unexpected.
Well, he didn't open up any further, but clearly what we learned from that is there were quite a number of situations where guys they wanted didn't come. Like, they're not going to admit that, because then that feeds right into the beast of the narrative, whether it's true or not, that you can't get things closed because Michael Bidwill doesn't spend the money. Now, I bet you anything, if the Cardinals heard me say that, they would flip out. Like, wait, are you reporting that? No, I'm not reporting that. But here's the thing about the Cardinals, and I don't apologize for this. There are countless number of factual examples where Michael Bidwill's lack of desire to spend to win hurts the team and has that reputation that's been built for years and years and years through his father's tenure. And I think that that's important because he's had multiple opportunities to decide, you know what, I'm going to dispel that notion and do something about it from a coaching salary standpoint, and he doesn't. So with it being factually correct so often, I do not apologize for assuming that's the case now, is how I feel about it. And when I hear Coach LaFleur say that, really one of the crazy things is, guys got to do what's right for their families. You think you're going to get a guy and you don't. No. Well, I'm forced to say, well, why didn't you get him? Was that guy using the Cardinals to get more money out of his current team and he never wanted to go? Was that a case where you were in a legitimate race for somebody and the other team won for that coach? And then obviously, which one is it? Is that why it took so long to decide on Nick Rallis? Because you were trying to get other defensive coordinators. See, that's such a interesting answer that what else are you talking about if you are referring to coaches that you thought might be coming, but they got to do what's best for their families? All right, beyond that, let's get to the coordinators themselves. What is the role of Nathaniel Hackett? What's the role of a offensive coordinator when they're not the play caller?
It's setting the table, setting the menu, having just great energy around the building, having great communication when I'm doing stuff with the defense, when I'm doing stuff with Monty, when I'm doing stuff just around the building. So it's one of those things like, when you're a play calling head coach, it's like you always get asked, what's the order of, the most important coaches? Like, well, they're all important. The position coaches, the coordinators, that is such an important role because of all the things I just said. And I've never worked with Hack. I've obviously known Hack for a lot of years. But obviously the years that he spent with Green Bay and my brother, what a vital part he had in the success, early on. What an opportunity for us and myself to be able to land him.
I told you before, since he's not calling plays, I don't really know how he's going to work and okay, whatever. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more I don't like it because I just keep going back to, and I'll try to do the research and bring up specifics for you. But that year he spent in Denver, I'm telling you, I just ducked my head. I remember the lack of using timeouts and not getting the ball spiked or, gosh, I forget. I just know it was some of the worst, the lowest prepared team I had ever seen in the 2-minute situation was the Nathaniel Hackett Broncos, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So there is LaFleur talking about Hackett's role. Hackett, how do you see your role? What is your job as offensive coordinator? What do you bring to the table?
For me, my goal, no matter what the role is that the entire staff understands the plan and can call the game the exact same way. That's really, in essence, what you're looking for. That it doesn't matter who's got the paper. It doesn't matter who's got the microphone to the quarterback. It's everybody's going to call it the same way. So I think it's more about doing whatever I can do to help Mike get to that place that he's got a can't stop me mentality. And he's feeling it when he's out there and being able to call the plays and dial it up. And the quarterback knows that. So for me, it's just all about being there for him, helping him develop the plans, helping him develop anything that he needs and make it so he could be the best version of himself.
And now you see what I mean. Boy, doesn't he sound like a nice human being. Just a good person. I'm just here to help him be the best version that he can be of himself. Well, that's so nice. But it just worries me. I'm thinking back to his days in Denver and thinking, okay, what are you going to say in his ear? Because you're so bad at clock management, are you just going to be quiet? Or are you going to give your advice, which we've seen what happens when you're in charge? So I don't want you I don't want you giving advice because you're not good at it. I've always thought clock management is something inherent. I don't know why. But I've never seen somebody who's bad at it, really get better. I thought Herm Edwards was the worst I'd ever seen when he was with the Jets until I saw Nathaniel Hackett. And I remember seeing stuff that'll turn you white. I mean, I just thought that was Ghostbusters. I just thought this is just horrible. It was almost as if I was embarrassed for the game, thinking, how can all of us sitting in a couch know more about clock management than this guy? It just made no sense. And now he's in this role where I'm assuming he's going to be giving advice to a rookie head coach. Hopefully, LaFleur's naturally good at clock management and end-of-game situations. America's reporter Teo Mackey asked the perfect follow-up to LaFleur, which had to be asked. When you look at Paul Hackett's poor record as a head coach and poor stats as a play-calling offensive coordinator, what is it that he's bringing to the table that makes you feel like it counterbalances those facts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many factors in success and not. Like, it's like, define success. I get what you're going to say. Well, wins and losses. Well, I could say sometimes it's a little bit more than that with the variables that are placed in the NFL. So he's been very successful. He's very thought of, particularly within our profession. And there's not a. I mean, if you guys believe one thing from this press conference, it is literally, I wanted him and nobody else, and he's here.
Wow. I was not a fan of that answer. No, I appreciate that's who I wanted and I went after. Okay, the latter part. But that beginning part, when he says, I get it, you're going to say wins and losses, but there's so much more.
I get what you're going to say. Well, wins and losses. Well, I could say sometimes it's a little bit more than that.
Actually, it's not more than that. I mean, I'm totally into the process. There's a process to winning before you win. You're not going to sustain winning when you win by luck, and you're going to win by luck if you don't have a process. So when we talk through that, I'm with you. But when we talk about success, we're talking about wins and losses in that league. That's it. Now, I get it if you have some tough losses in year one, but you can see growth in an organization. I totally buy into that. That's not what we're talking about with Nathaniel Hackett. We're talking about a terrible offense with the Jets, or we're talking about a terribly run team in Nathaniel Hackett's first gig at Denver. So, I mean, I listen to what you're saying. Well, I know you're going to say wins and, yeah, I am going to say wins and losses, and I'm going to be right. And if you're going to spend all of your time trying to justify other measurements for your success while you're the Arizona Cardinals head coach, this is going nowhere. Bring back JG then, is what I would say. That's not good enough. Now, in response to that, of him saying, well, the poor record is, that doesn't necessarily mean lack of success. This is a good follow-up to Nathaniel Hackett then. What did you learn? The losing in Denver, the poor offense with the Jets. What did you learn in those stops?
Learn from your adversity and expect adversity. We always talk about that, but I think, again, it's how you view that adversity. You can let it bring you down, and I've always been somewhat known as an energetic human being, and no matter what, don't change. Be yourself. Always enjoy the moment, and, sometimes you got to block out that noise. A lot of people say that. It's easier said than done. I've learned to be able to block out that noise so I can keep that energy and keep rolling.
I do like that attitude. Again, I don't think he's a great coach, but I really like his attitude, and his attitude might help make other coaches better. Last night, I was at Ash Wednesday Mass, and we went to our old Catholic church where we used to go because it was just a lot more convenient. And I like the reverence. My old Catholic church is a little more reverent than my new one. And in Lent, I like the reverence. So We got there perfectly on time, which for me is late. I like to get to Mass about 15 minutes early. But we got there late, but in a sense on time because the priest had not started walking down the aisle. And we kind of walked to an area where I see is a good place to stand because the place is totally packed. And then as we're getting closer, Jennifer says, hey, I see 2 seats over there. And we walk over and we find 2 seats. It's great. Well, later on in the line for the Holy Eucharist, there is this woman who I think she's an usher, comes down the aisle to approach the Eucharistic minister, and she has the biggest smile on her face. I mean, the joy this woman is bringing to the table was crazy. And then I remembered, because I hadn't been to that church in so long. I remembered, you know what? I noticed that she always does that. She always has a huge smile for everybody. And I'm kind of thinking of her right now as I think of Nathaniel Hackett. When I listen to him talk, hey, handle adversity. It's a pleasure to have this adversity. Learn from it. I think there is an element to coaching, which is your attitude towards people. And you're going to have a lot of guys that don't want to let him down because he's such a good person. But there's going to be other guys in that locker room that's going to say, listen, I'm here to be better. I've got to be a better player so I make more money, and we need to win. I'm here to win. And they'll quickly realize Nathaniel Hackett doesn't win. I'm sure someone's going to be upset about that in the Hackett household, that when I said Nathaniel Hackett doesn't win, but I'm going by whenever he's had power, his teams don't win. Yeah, fair. I think that's fair enough. Okay, let's go to the defensive side of things. Nick Rallis retained as defensive coordinator. He was asked to go through his emotions in the last 2 weeks of having the head coach that brought him here fired, not finding out either way whether you're being retained, what it's like with other jobs getting filled while you're sitting here not knowing if you're going to be retained. And they were kind of asking him a whole bunch of questions along that line. But the key phrase at the beginning was, walk us through your emotions the last 2 weeks with Jonathan getting fired.
Boy, emotions, that's a deep, you went deep there. And that's hard for me because I'd struggle to express my emotions, it was a long process of reflection and trying to find those avenues for growth for myself and really for, this defense, whether or not I at the time I didn't know if I was going to be here, but I was still looking at it through that lens and, just finding ways that how can I be better at my job, talking to other people, how can I serve better, serve the coaches, serve the players to allow them to do their job at a higher level. So, it was ultimately just reflection on performance. I wouldn't say anything was ever really emotional.
Reflection on performance. That's pretty solid. I don't know how you're not a little emotional, though. I mean, you're part of the reason why the boss that believed in you got fired. It's okay to be a little emotional about that. Mike LaFleur, why did you keep Rallis? Why is Nick Rallis your defensive coordinator?
Yeah, so I didn't personally know Nick at all. Obviously being in the division, you knew of Nick, and then having to go against him 6 times. He was the only person in this division that you went against 6 times. When you think about all the coordinator changes or head coach changes from Seattle to San Francisco, obviously there was coordinator changes there. So you felt like you knew him well. And I always, like I stated in that opening press conference, there were some great battles, and being able to get to know him through this process. We had very honest and open dialogue, and I like what what I heard. This guy's he's a stud, and his best days are totally in front of him. And I know it's just a great fit for us.
It took me a while to figure out what he was saying about he's the only one that we faced 6 times. And I'm thinking, wait, how do you face one defensive coordinator 6 times? What he means by that phrase is he was working with the Rams for 3 years. So they had 6 games against the Seahawks, 6 games against the 49ers, and 6 games against the Cardinals in those 3 years. And there were changes at defensive coordinator in Seattle or San Francisco. So therefore, with the changes, you went through a defensive coordinator about 1.5 times or so in his 3 years with the rest of the division. But he's going up against Nick Rallis every year in this division. And that is important if you're looking for some positives. If you're looking for, like, hey, Doug, man, you're being negative on Nathaniel Hackett. Can you give me something here? Well, it is important that an offensive coordinator in the division that's been promoted to a head coaching position with another team in the division wants to keep the defensive coordinator of the team that he's now taken over. And the reason why I say that's a good thing is because he's going to know the Nick Rallis defense better than just about any, like he won't know the terms. Like, who knows? Maybe they have a blitz called Eagle. Well, Nathaniel Hackett's not going to know what the Eagle is and whether it lands, but he's going to know I struggled against this defense, or this defense did this well, or this is why I feel strongly about Nick Rallis. So therefore, imagine if he comes in from the division and is saying, listen, I scored 30 points a game on this guy's defenses all the time. You got to spend the money and get me a different defensive coordinator. That would have been hashed out in the interview. So by keeping Nick Rallis, it's kind of a vote of confidence saying, yep, I went against him 6 times, and those defenses were good enough to make me say, I want you to stay and run my defense. Nick Rallis was then asked, I loved this question, and this was from one of the paid-for media members that are sent to these press conferences to flood with questions so the media is kind of more controlled. And she asked, what's the difference for you going from a defensive head coach to an offensive head coach? Because you were already calling the defense, but now it seems like you have an even bigger power source. So that's the question. I kind of paraphrased, so I didn't get it all right, and I'm starting to fall asleep mentally right now. But he hears that, and I thought the brilliance of this Nick Rallis answer is amazing. What's going to be different for you with an offensive head coach? Because I'm immediately thinking I won't be able to bounce ideas off the head coach because he's speaking my language. Or, you're always nervous when you make a call and it's going through your boss's headset because, he might be like, well, I don't like that. And it is his team. And there's so many dynamics at play here of where he could go when asked the question about that. And he goes somewhere brilliant. Again, the question, what do you think is going to be the major difference between you not having a defensive head coach anymore and having an offensive head coach?
Yeah, I think I don't have the answer completely on that because there's so many things that have popped up already in my mind of like, oh man, like how are we going to do this with Mike, because there's just, and I don't know if it has to do with an offensive coach versus a defensive coach. I think it's just a new coach. It's just like, what's our operation, with this in practice and in walkthroughs? Like, are we going to, we have all these defensive situational stuff we want to cover. Are we going to do it together? Am I doing it separate? Right. So, that's just something that I'm going to, we haven't been working super long together so far, but we'll figure that out as we go. And obviously Mike's going to be really clear with what he needs from me in that regard. But I think the biggest thing that pops in my head with your question is the resource. And obviously Mike's knowledge of the offenses that exist in this division. And honestly, they're pretty prevalent around the league. And just being able to get his perspective on that and figure out what gives those offenses issues or what they find that they can attack with things that we do, that's going to lead to a lot of growth for me, honestly, because it's like I don't know what I don't know yet. And so just being able to have those conversations with him, grow from those, be able to make adjustments, with what we feel like we need based on those conversations, I think is going to be critical.
Gosh, that's really smart. I mean, that you can't get a better answer because, I admit on this one, I'm thinking negative. What's the difference with having an offensive head coach? Well, I don't have the defensive head coach there, and I'm not really running his defense, but I think it's a great opportunity of growth because, hey, now I'm totally in charge of the defense. But that's not where he went. He immediately went to how much better things are freed up for him and the growth he's going to have in that conversation. You're an offensive guy. If I'm doing this, why did you call this? What are you thinking here? Why did you call this? Why did Sean McVay call that when we were playing against you? Like all of that stuff is just going to, Nick Rallis is just going to eat all that stuff up. So Mike LaFleur was then asked about keeping Nick Rallis, naming Nick Rallis, and what is it that's going to work? What are some of the intangibles that Rallis brings to the table as a returning defensive coordinator that you can use to your advantage?
He knows these guys, so it's not only just from a defense perspective, it's been good to just pick his brain from an offensive perspective too about some of these guys, so and the coaches and the people around the building. So that's been great. And again, his focus is literally, this guy loves ball, loves to work out, and he loves ball, and he loves his family too, which is a huge priority for me as well. Again,
major positive. I think you're in for a rude awakening when you are the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I think it is such a hard job because of the lack of resources given by the owner. And, my old favorite line that I used to say when I first came to town about Sun Devil football fans, that you have Sun Bowl support with Rose Bowl expectations. Well, it's so similar with the Bidwell family and the Cardinals. The Super Bowl expectations that aren't even remotely funded to a level that equals like 25% of the league. Like you're not even good enough to be average in how you try to build this financially. And yet guys are getting fired because they're not able to match the expectations, which I've always thought is absolutely ridiculous. So to have a guy like Nick Rallis be there, right there with the head coach and say, okay, here's what we learned when we fly to LA. Here's what we learned when we're playing so-and-so. Here's what and now you have that break. Here's this problem. This guy's kind of a problem. Who knows who it is? Maybe it's a member of the media. Maybe it's me. Doesn't matter who it is. It's almost like you have a ramp up for your new head coach because you kept Nick Rallis to be able to be a connector when it's needed. I like it. I like that. I do. Not number one, not the greatest thing, but I do like it. Okay, lastly, on the Cardinals, is Nick Rallis, another great answer, was asked about, in a sense, now that Jonathan Gannon is gone and it's your defense fully, are there going to be some massive changes, possibly massive schematic changes?
Every year, honestly, So like that, I always believe in the tear it down and build it back up. And it's like kind of multiple layers to that in terms of the game's changing, right? And offenses are changing. So what is 2026 going to look like? What do we have to be prepared to stop with what the best offenses in 2025 are doing and kind of where it's moving? But then also what wasn't good for us. and how do we change that? And, as we start to get into acquisition, like what do our guys do best? And you got to put those guys in the positions that, brings out their strengths. And so every year you have to look at it. I think sometimes the hardest part of what you're asking is not changing, right? Because if you didn't see that ball go through the hoop, are you gonna adjust your jump shot, right? And if you're convicted on whatever that is part of your jump shot or whatever that is part of our scheme, that you didn't necessarily see the ball go through the hoop, but that it's something that you want to do and it's going to lead to success. Sometimes it's harder to stay convicted on those things, and run it back. So there's layers of that. There's going to be changes, but then there's going to be things that, we're going to want to keep because we believe in it.
I thought that was deep. What do I feel convicted about that didn't work? And I'm going to stick with it because I believe it will work, whether I work harder at it, whether it's run by smarter people, whether I learn to coach it better. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I believe in this. Or when is it? Well, that didn't work. That line of thinking, that play, that formation, that process we took to get that play there, something broke down. And usually when that is, it's like 3 or 4 people that are brilliant, speak the same language, and then they can fix it. Man, I'm tired. I don't know what's going on. Usually I feel like this at 5 a.m, and at 3:43, I was so excited to get the podcast up, hopefully on time. I haven't edited Bobby Mack yet, so I got to do that. And I still have some Suns to talk about, but man, it just hit. I just ran into the wall. Oh my gosh. I think I am going to go get a second Mountain Dew. I don't like to drink 2 Mountain Dews, but some days it's got to happen. We got Suns and versus Vegas up next on Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass.
Here is Sue Rigler on 100 Mile Brewing Company.
This room that we're in right now is called the Roadrunner Room, and it is our private event space. It's 1,200 square feet and accommodates up to 80 seated, about 120 standing mingling. We have comedy night in here on Friday nights, and we've had board meetings, luncheons for ASU. We've had city council member, the mayor's been in here, Mayor Corey Woods. We have cornhole in here, so whatever really you want the space, we'll set it up for you.
100 Mile Brewing Company. Fresh. It never gets old.
Yeah, my favorite part about being the owner of Goodyear Fit Body Boot Camp is the amount of relationships I've been able to build since opening the gym. It's the community that we're building. It's the amount of fun that I have as an owner, the conversations I get to have with my members, or I get to learn about everybody's families, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. So really, I opened a fitness center that turned into a big social club where I get to see a bunch of faces every day. Yeah, just have a great time with them. And a lot of times I get to see some amazing transformations.
Halfway done with that second Mountain Dew. The Mountain Dew's giving me enough juice to finish strong, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Here we go. I had so much energy when the show started, too. A little bit of a crash and burn here. All right, second half of the season. Phoenix Suns. It is a weird misnomer, though, that really hits you in the head when you see the numbers behind it. But it's weird every time. You have the All-Star break, and then all of us are so trained to say second half of the season, second half of the season. Well, it's an 82-game schedule. Obviously, the halfway point is once you play 41 games. But we say the second half after the All-Star break. But because the NBA knows not to compete with football, they always have their All-Star game a week after the Super Bowl. Therefore, there's only 27 games remaining for the Suns. How weird is that? Just 27. What I always like to do when we project is you project based on a 500 record. Well, with an odd number, let's say the Suns will give us the benefit of the doubt. Suns go 14-13 the rest of the way. What happens? If they do that, they'll be 10 games above 500, sitting with a 46-36 record. Now let's compare competition by looking at the standings first. The Suns are 3 games above Golden State. I feel really comfortable that that's going to remain the same. So and I don't think, obviously anybody can collapse, but there's no way I believe the Trailblazers or the Clippers are going to catch the Suns. So therefore, if the Suns are able to do that and avoid Portland and the Clippers, they stay out of the 9-10 game, which is single elimination for the loser. Right now, as the 7 seed, they would play Golden State with the winner advancing, loser having to play the winner of the Portland Clippers game. And then you advance if you win that one. The dream is to get into that 6 seed. And if you can get up to that 6 seed, now you avoid the play-in tournament. So if we do something we shouldn't do, and that is assume Golden State's not going to catch us and have the 3 come back on us with a 3-game deficit, let's look ahead, or let's look forward. And what am I doing that's funny is I'm going to include a team that's 3 games away from the Suns, even though I won't include a team that's 3 games behind the Suns. But the Suns are 3 games back of Denver for the 3 seed. They are 2 games back of Houston for home court advantage in the 4 seed. And they're a game and a half back of a tie between the Lakers and T-Wolves. So if we do a study and we rank all of the regular season opponents for each of the teams that are involved kind of as in this middle of the pack conglomerate of teams 3 through 7, that would be Denver, Houston, the Lakers, Minnesota, the Suns. When we rank them versus the rest of the league, thanks to a website called Tankathon, Denver has the hardest remaining schedule of any basketball team in the NBA. Any of them. So there's your dream scenario if you want to catch Denver. They've got the hardest schedule. Even better, Minnesota has the 3rd hardest schedule. Now, you might say, well, why is that better? You know, Denver's got the hardest. Isn't that, the reason why I'm saying it's better is because the Minnesota Timberwolves are only a game and a half ahead of the Suns. So it's even better that their schedule is that difficult, because we might not, in our wildest dreams, catch Denver, but we can catch Minnesota. And they've got the 3rd hardest schedule the rest of the way. Tied with Minnesota is the Lakers. They have the 8th hardest schedule the rest of the way. And then the Suns are 9th. And then at the bottom of this is the Houston Rockets, who have the 25th hardest schedule. Yeah, that's bad. There are 5 teams in the NBA that have an easier schedule the rest of the way than Houston. Only 5. That kind of stinks. So that makes you feel like you're not catching Houston, and Houston's probably going to catch the Nuggets. They're only a game back of the Nuggets, while the Nuggets have the hardest schedule the rest of the way. So let's say it ends up Rockets is the 3 seed, and now the fight for home court advantage is Denver, LA, Minnesota, and Phoenix, with Denver having the hardest schedule the rest of the way, Minnesota the 3rd hardest schedule, and the Lakers the 8th hardest schedule. All of them have a harder schedule. It kind of does make you feel pretty good about the Suns possibly getting up there to the number 1 seed. So yesterday I went to the Brian Gregory press get-together, and that was nice because he hasn't spoken since the preseason. The first question came from Cam Cox, but I'm going to play it out of order because the next question I just thought was really enlightening when somebody just said, well, Brian, how's it going as an NBA general manager?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. As I talked about, there was a lot of things in this that I didn't know, and I was fine with that, and maybe that's a positive. When you're surrounded by quality people like we have within the organization, experts in their field, that helps quite a bit. I've focused on the players, on the basketball piece, on the relationship with Jordan and the coaching staff. Now you start moving into other areas. You know, obviously it was the trade, and then it will be the draft and the free agency and stuff like that. But sometimes you got to remind yourself, this is still basketball. You know what I mean? And sometimes to be successful in basketball, the least important thing is the basketball. It's the other things. And I think we've emphasized that, and that's helped.
Honestly, I forgot to tell you this, so I'll get to what he just said in a second. When he first sat down, he said, hey, I got some things that I want to go over with everybody. And let me comment on that stuff. And then, I'll open it up to your questions. He said some things that were somewhat interesting, but he talked for 5.5 minutes. Normally, I like to say, hey, we're different here on Unplugged because I give you a piece of something and I give you the whole piece. As I hear, this is what they said. So you're going to hear parts of it out of context somewhere else, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you hear the whole thing and you judge for yourself. Well, out of the 5.5 minutes, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I would say there was about 45 seconds worth of good points, but I didn't think they were so great that you had to know it. So I want you to know after the show today, when Al is done talking, I'm going to give you that whole audio, the whole speech to start the presser from Brian Gregory. So if you're like super hardcore Suns fan, Doug, give it all to me, then, make sure you keep listening after Al. If you're kind of like me and you're thinking, yeah, if he's just going to kind of talk about what he wants to talk about for 5 minutes and you didn't think it was really that important, well, then I don't think it's that important either. And then wherever you are in the show, just know that you're really going to be done 5.5 minutes sooner than what the timer says. So anyway, okay, now back to what Brian Gregory had just said about how's it going. I thought it was so enlightening when he said, I didn't know everything and I still don't. And luckily we have a lot of people that have an expertise in different fields and it all comes together. That means you've got good people when the GM can admit what they don't know. And I think that's okay because there are so many rules, especially as it relates to the salary cap. So I bet what he's talking about is the desire to move on from Nick Richards was to lower the luxury tax bill. And it was really needed. And who knows what somebody was trying to give back and no, that's not going to work. I think he's talking about the capologists, but then said, hey, I've got to still focus on basketball and let those guys do what they do. But I thought that was cool the way he just admitted, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And whenever I hear that, I think that you're able to now there could be false humility. That's true. But whenever you say something like that, it normally means you have a good staff too, because staff likes to hear that you're including them. And when you say you don't know everything and you're relying on the staff, well, that's how they get promoted. That's how they get jobs with other teams in a higher capacity when you have a GM out there advocating for them by saying something like that. So here's the first question, which came from Cam Cox. And he said, how nice is it as things have gone along where you're seeing the payoff from the tough decisions that you made and the decisions that you wanted to see in alignment of everybody together? How is this working out? And the key part of the question there was now that you're seeing the payoff.
I think payoff is too strong of a word because we're still in the process, but it's a good feeling. More so just, obviously I'm at every practice, at every workout, at the games, to see our competitive level and the joy that our players play the game with, that's rewarding. Because I know that those are the framework for what can build successful teams and teams that challenge for championships and teams that continue to improve. That daily grind is fun to be a part of, not always easy. And like I said, in this league, there are going to be some nights that are deemed a failure in terms of wins and losses, but keeping our eye on where we want to get to and how we want to get to has been very rewarding.
Most of that answer was a little cliche-ish, and usually I don't give you those. You know, I just say, okay, I'll just leave that in the presser, and if you want to go find it, go ahead. But the reason why I did play it is I loved how it started, of immediately saying, you know, we haven't seen it pay off yet. I like the attitude of, hey, let's not like accept every flower that people want to throw at us right now, because we've still got a long way to go. I didn't get the thrilling answer I was hoping for, but the one question I asked is, you know, I said, hey, if things were going poorly, I would be asking you, why did you believe in Jordan Ott? But I'm still going to ask the same question, yet obviously it's positive. Why do you believe in Jordan Ott? But I want to know after you've already hired him. So at some point after China, tell us a story of how you knew you had the right guy. Not in the interview, not during the process. When the process is well over and you're watching him interact in practice, when you're watching him handle a film session, things like that. Give us a story on why you knew you had the right guy.
I'll go back to my coaching days. I've always taken great pride, and it was kind of a motto of whatever staff I was on, either as an assistant or a head coach. First in, last to leave. Unfortunately, I can't do that anymore, because every time I come in the morning, Jordan's car's out there already. You know what I mean? Just a tremendous work ethic. And I knew the basketball knowledge. I knew the ability to build relationships. And when you combine that with a relentless work ethic, I knew that good things were going to come.
That might have been egotistical by me. I'm just playing you the answer because it's my question. As I listen, it really isn't that thrilling. Hey, the guy's there early. I wanted more than that. I wanted to say, well, he had this conversation with so-and-so, or he did, I wanted something a lot deeper. And I just got, he shows up early. All right. So now let's get into players. Book, Brooks, and Jalen Green, and come on, Malawach. Questions that were asked about those. The one about Book, admittedly, it's a little cheesy. And I hope I'm not sounding offensive. Richard Sines of Fox 10. I don't know how he does it. He asks the cheesiest questions. And that's always like, man, what'd you think of this guy? Or, boy, it's got to have a good feeling the way this. And then there's such an affirmation because every coach is so happy when Richard asks a question because they're always easy. So then you can hear the coach, yeah, that's absolutely right, Richard. Like, it's almost like they're encouraging Richard to ask more questions because they're easy, but also they're trying to encourage other media members to be more like Richard. So the questions are easier. But when it's an icon like Book, I admit, I don't mind the easy questions about Book because I want to know what they're going to say because Book deserves it. And Brian Gregory was asked by Richard Sines about first his All-Star week, the Booker All-Star weekend. And then Richard asked the follow-up.
That was kind of neat. Yeah, he had a great weekend. I know his competitive level, and he wasn't maybe happy about not winning the three-point contest, which is what makes him special. But what a great showing. And then he played extremely well in the games as well. When you watch him play with all those other All-Stars, you can see what makes him special, because there's just an understanding of the game that is uncomparable within this league. And so for him representing our organization, the way he went about and did it and played the right way, competed hard, was right on line with who Devin Booker is.
And when it comes to the team and you see the rest of the players, see a guy like Devin Booker buy into what you guys are doing, that's got to help everybody else fall in line.
Always does. Always does. When your premier player quickly jumps on board, again, there's a kinship between him and Jordan because of their great understanding of the game and so forth that makes it easier for everybody else to say the tone has been set, and if he's the example, we better follow. And we've had other guys step up in the leadership role because in this league it can't just be one guy. And so guys like Dylan Brooks has done a great job of that. Royce O'Neal's done a great job of that. Grayson Allen's done a great job of that. And you got to get it from different people at different times. And I think one of the things that this team has is the courage to step up and say stuff when things needs to be said, either to each other, to the coaching staff, or from the coaching staff to the players, because when everybody's on the same page and everybody wants to move forward in the right direction, then you can have open communication and honest communication. I think that's critical.
A lot there to gnaw on. Of course, it was nice to hear that about Book and hear about his competitiveness. But the end there, I find that fascinating because one of the things that we heard a lot through the grapevine last year was the inability to communicate. That team had a bunch of people that were soft, had a bunch of people that were offended by difficult conversations. Not bad people, just their feelings were hurt so easy that it's almost easier to not deal with problems. Because anytime you deal with problems, you get a lot of passive aggressive, whiny people that don't really get to the heart of the matter. And with what Brian Gregory's describing is it sounds like now they have that. That if there's a problem, it can be dealt with quickly and in-house because you're going to have problems. And if you care enough about winning, well, then you care enough to communicate in a mature way to get to the bottom of it, fix it, and move on. That is gold in your hand that this team is willing to do it. And then a question about the famous Dylan Brooks, which it was time to end the press conference pretty soon. I had already asked a question. So then I was mad that I asked that question about Jordan Ott because now I wanted to ask a Dylan Brooks question. There was nothing against it. I could have forced it, but I'm kind of the old guy, but I'm not there enough to really ask two questions before somebody else asks a question. But I really wish I would have, especially as I sit here. It frustrates me that I didn't. Why can't Dylan Brooks play at that high level of intensity and aggression without getting a technical foul? Here is Brian Gregory talking about the impact that Brooks has had to the intensity of the team.
He was never a guy that you needed to heat up. He brought it every single day. And that was really very critical for us as an organization, that every day we stepped on the court, be it an individual skill work, be it a 2-on-2 group work, be it 5-on-5 practice or a game, that we were going to attack that day. We were going to attack that workout. There was going to be an attitude of, I'm giving everything I got, and I'm going to get better during this time. And then at the end of that workout, we're going to evaluate, come back the next day, and then go. He brought that. We've have other guys that have that, but he was kind of the spark that ignited it a little bit. And it just became who we are. You know what I mean? So he's brought a lot of that. And then obviously how hard he plays and the intensity that he plays with and the emotion and passion that he plays with. I always say everything's contagious, good or bad. Luckily, there's a lot more good. And then we just need to keep moving forward in terms of he knows his technical situation. We've had plenty of sit-downs and talks. He also knows how important he is for us to be on the court. So I think with that, I think he understands exactly where he's at.
I have such a problem with that phrase that it's said a lot by him and by Brian Gregory now, but Jordan Ott all year.
He knows his technical situation.
Why do we keep saying, well, he knows? Well, if he knows, then change. We're talking 16 technical fouls before you get suspended. And now he's at 16. And now you get suspended every 2. So why should we have encouragement that it's not going to keep happening because he knows where he is with his technicals when he wasn't able to stop after 1? He got a technical. Okay. You're 15 away. He doesn't change. You're 14 away. You're 13 away. You're 12 away. You're 11. Blah, 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 blah. If you couldn't get it fixed after 16, why in the world would we believe he's only going to get one the rest of the year? From now on, every even-numbered technical is a one-game suspension. So he's allowed to have one more technical the rest of the season without getting suspended. He couldn't go the first 50 games or so without getting 16, and we're supposed to believe he can go the final 27 without getting 2? No way. So I don't like that phrasing. He knows his technical situation. Well, then do something about it if you know. Like, this team is amazing. I mean, who would have said this team is going to have 32 wins at the All-Star break? I'm so thrilled to be a fan. I'm so thrilled to have Dillon Brooks. There's so many good things, but you cannot explain to me, without me being Mr. Obstinate, that Dillon Brooks is thoroughly lacking of any control over his emotions to be able to avoid getting technicals while being an intense basketball player. Just drives me nuts. All right, the latest on Jalen Green. How's his health? How's he looking for the rest of the year? It's been kind of frustrating to watch. What do you believe in here?
He's in a good spot right now. You know, injuries, unfortunately, are part of this league, and he's done an unbelievable job. His spirit on a daily basis in terms of attacking the rehab, attacking the recovery, attacking the workouts has been spot on from day one. There are tough days. Anybody who's an athlete or anybody who's coach knows there's tough days when you're going through that, days that you want to get out there and play and you're just not ready yet. He's always bounced back, and he's had the support of not only our human performance group but all his teammates as well. The one thing that is a testament to that is just watch him when he wasn't playing, when he was on the bench. Engaged, sitting right next to the coaches, always there for his teammates. A lot of guys don't do that. So with that being said, obviously when you have the league has shown now that with soft tissue injuries, the progress is never in a straight line. But he's in a good place right now. Obviously playing those couple games before the break and then getting time off with the rehab and recovery and more workouts, building the conditioning. So he's in a good place heading into these last 27 games.
I wonder if he starts tonight, taking on the Spurs in Austin, Texas, and Jalen Green healthy, Dillon Brooks suspended. Seems to make sense that you're going to go in that direction. Maybe Jordan Ott has the feeling, no, we're going to have Jalen Green coming off the bench the rest of the year, so let's just not change. I'm interested to see what the starting lineup is going to look like, but I think now it's about ramping up Jalen Green's minutes since he's healthy in order to have him playing a full complement of minutes going into the postseason. All right, last one. Really good question about the development of Malawach, because I expected more from Malawach this year. I did. Not much more. I didn't think he'd come in and dominate or anything. I knew he had needed to develop, but I thought he was slightly more polished than he is. I kind of not misread it as in like reading, but I mean, in watching him at Duke, I was more enamored with him there than I have been with him here. And I don't know why I missed something, but I missed kind of just foot dexterity. His feet aren't as good as I thought they were going to be coming out of Duke. And this is a trying time because it's not normal for a big to be this unproductive early and then develop into something special later. You could argue Joel Embiid did it, but to me, I would disagree. Joel Embiid was that talented at KU. It was just he was always hurt. And then he worked on his game while battling from injury, and after about year 2, maybe it was near the end of year 2, suddenly he's on the court doing great things. So I think you could see it in Joel Embiid when he was healthy. With Malawach, you just see, you're not quite the athlete right now that I was hoping for. Here's Brian Gregory on the development of Malawach?
Well, obviously, with one less big in the rotation, there's that possibility. And I know everyone's excited to watch Kaman and Rashir play. Such bright futures for both those guys. And their development has been, we're very pleased with it so far this year. Obviously, the opportunity and them always bothering us about trying to go play in the Valley games when there's the free time to do it. They want to play. They're on the court every day with us, working on their game and practices and so forth. And I think you've seen even progress in when they've gotten minutes in games. So I know if the opportunity comes that Kaman will be ready for those minutes.
It's a simple thing, but one of the things that I really liked seeing, I was watching Duke Clemson. That was like the fourth team in the country, maybe fifth team in the country, third team in the country, up against the 20th. And Cooper Flagg and Malawach and somebody else I can't remember were there sitting together. And what I was thrilled by that is, number one, everybody loves him, so he comes back to campus and, people want to sit with him. But also that he loves the game so much that he wanted to go to another basketball game instead of going on some long road trip somewhere, some big vacation, or just sitting at home. Like, no, I'm going to go watch basketball. Even though it is Duke, even though a lot of players go back to their home college on the All-Star break, I was happy to see Malawach being one of them. Really interested in tonight's game. I mean, this is the number 2 seed, San Antonio Spurs. What a way to start off the quote-unquote second half if you can steal a win. And, of course, since I dismissed Golden State, who are only 3 games behind the Suns, I want the Suns to win as many games as possible so I don't have that comment come back and bite me. It's time for versus. Oh, no dancing. No dancing again. Because of a prevent defense, there is no dancing. Really, yesterday's bad news. Okay, I had one terrible bet. Terrible decision, taking West Virginia minus the 10.5. West Virginia didn't cover because they didn't win. Utah won by 5 in Morgantown. Bad bet. Shouldn't have done it. Didn't know enough about West Virginia to be putting down money. Okay, bad. Deserved that. I took Tennessee minus the 9.5 against Oklahoma. We crushed that. They won 89-66. Took KU minus the 5.5 against Oklahoma State. They crushed that, winning 81-69. So we had some easy covers yesterday. So we're 2-1 with the U.S.-Sweden game sitting there. I took USA minus 1.5. Thought they would easily cover the puck line against Sweden. U.S. is up 1-0, and they get the listen. And I figured it would be like 1-0, and then it would be a 1-goal lead, and then they'd score an empty netter and be up by 2, and we'd get it. For some reason, they were atrocious at getting the puck into the neutral zone and just force-feeding these cheesy little passes instead of slowing down and eating clock and taking it up the ice. 3 bad turnovers in a row, and it allowed Sweden to then score the tying goal. And once they tied it, now I'm a dead duck because it's going to go into overtime, and either U.S. loses or they only win by a goal and sudden death. So really frustrated by the U.S. and their lack of execution at the end of that game. So they win, but we don't, and I end up 2-2, and now the slump is at 42-57. Here we go for today. I think the spread is too big on Pistons-Knicks. It's at Madison Square Garden, but I think the Pistons are ready for something like this, and they're getting 4.5. So the best team in the East is getting 4.5. I think that's a mistake. We'll take Detroit plus the 4.5. Hawaii has to cover 11.5, but do it at home against Cal Poly. I think they'll do even more than that. Sorry, I yawned. I'm tired. This is the first time that's ever happened on air. I like Hawaii minus 11.5 at Cal Poly. Boy, I just got to bail, huh? That was really bad. Genesis Invitational. I think that course sets up really well for Harris English. I think there's a lot of value there. I'm going to take English at plus 245 to get into the top 10. Plus 245 is really nice. You bet 100, you get 245. You bet $10, you get $24.50. Think about that. I mean, that's pretty well gold right there. Right there. Yeah. You bet $5 and you get 2 beers out of it. Yeah, probably a beer and a half. And then lastly, the juice isn't very good. You might want to skip this one. I'm taking the U.S. to cover the puck line against Canada today. The women play, I believe, at 11 this morning. But it's minus 150. Usually you don't get minus 150 on a puck line when you're saying, hey, they're going to win by 2. If you want positive juice, you got to take the U.S. minus 2.5. That's too much for me. I don't think they're that good. And I think Canada's going to be a little more desperate than that. But I like U.S. minus 1.5. But again, not great juice. So we've got Hawaii and the U.S. covering, and we've got Detroit plus the 4.5 at Madison Square Garden. And we're all cheering for Harris English. Sound credits today. I got the Brian Gregory from me. I was there, even though I kind of had 12 News send it to me because I held their microphone for them. I got the Anthony Del Orso and the Tommy Lloyd, both from the YouTube page of the Arizona Wildcats. And I got all of the Cardinals sound from 12 News because I'm a part-timer and they share their sound with me. And I think that's it. That does it for today's version of Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club, home of the 2026 LPGA Ford Championships at Wild Horse Pass. That event comes up the last weekend of March. So please get tickets and go. If you're going, tweet me that day, and I'll try to, meet up with you because I'm going most days. At the same time, if you're a Whirlwind Plus member, you get 2 free weekly passes. Wow. That's amazing. So, and you're always involved in great giveaways as a Whirlwind Plus member. This week, they're giving away prizes as well, tent passes to the Ford Championship. So it's not just get on the grounds, but now you get to sit up under a canopy, and they might have food and beer in there for you. You want to win? Become a Whirlwind Plus member. Just go to whirlwindgolf.com. You can book your tee time, and you can also become a Whirlwind Plus member. Santan Ford, 202 in Val Vista. I am Santan Ford. Parker & Sons, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Call 602-2-REPAIR. That's 602, the number 2, then REPAIR for Parker & Sons. Hardcore sponsors, one of the originals. Them, Bell's, and Burrito Express were the 3 originals, with Bell's being first, and they're the home of the Nashville Hot Chicken Sandwich, best sandwich in the history of the state of Arizona. Burrito Express, locations all across the east side and coming to a Circle K near you. Fantastic breakfast burrito. Get the chilies in it. Pennyroyal Promotion, slap a logo on anything. Or if you're just having a big get-together, have them make t-shirts for you. They make the world-famous Euchre t-shirt. That's how I got to know Brad and Angie. And they're slowly but surely becoming stronger members of the Unplugged Army as well, so that's kind of cool. Goodyear Fit Body Boot Camp, inspiring fitness and changing lives every day. What does that mean? It means it's run by A.G. Kleino, longtime member of the Unplugged Army, who was inspired by all of us. It was inspired by looking at me fail in life, picking myself up, going for it, and creating something amazing. And he's doing the same thing. But what he's also creating is a new you. So get yourself signed up and become a member of the Goodyear Fit Body Boot Camp and start changing your life. Wendy's, you talk about locations everywhere. Wendy's has it. Home right now of the amazing, where is it? I gotta find it because I don't have it memorized. There it is. The Thin Mint Frosty Fusion, which then took too long and I wasn't able to get out. Slice House by Tony Jumanji. Even though his name's not Jumanji. Chamignani. How about Bobby Mack mentioning Slice House today? I forgot about that. He even dropped the Slice House. I will do my best to get the Bobby Mack out there on Saturday, February 28th, to Slice House from Tony Gemignani. Hopefully I have that said right, Al. Hey, Al, when you're done, I'm going to throw it over to Brian Gregory for his speech.
Doug, thank you so much. My best to your listeners, and keep up the work on Doug Franz Unplugged.
All right, I'm going to hit on a couple key things and then open it up for questions. First, on Nick and Nigel, always a tough day for an organization, especially with how great those guys were for us. I want to make sure everybody knows how much we appreciated them. They were great teammates, unbelievable work ethic. And when you have the level of success that we've had up until the trade deadline, there are no small roles in that. And they brought it every single day, and they played an important role in helping us do a lot of good things. And as I said, it was a tough day. We wish them the very best. They're both in very good situations to continue their career. So I thought right off the bat, most important thing is from an organizational standpoint, how much we appreciated those two guys and what they brought every single day to the Suns. Second thing I want to hit on real quick is, last spring in the preseason, right before the first game, we talked about building a new identity and creating a culture based on toughness and grit and unselfishness. We made the decision, and we talked about it openly, that our success wasn't going to solely be defined by wins and losses, but more importantly by building the daily habits and the behaviors that were going to drive those characteristics that hopefully defined our team. I think we're in a good place. I think we've made progress in all of those areas. I think our fans, the great community of Phoenix, and maybe even you guys can feel it a little bit. We've made the changes. We're moving in the right direction. I like the spot that we're in. The one thing is with this league, it is fragile. And I mentioned it before. Things turn quickly in this league. So what we need to do is not be satisfied, to keep driving, keep pushing how we're going to play, what our team looks like, from on the court to their engagement with the fans to their work in the community. All those things are critical that we not only continue, but now we push it even further and try to grow in those areas. Because our key is not just to build it, but to build it to the point where it can be sustained. And we're getting there. We're not there yet. And so it's really important that we don't lose sight of our pursuit of where we want to get to, because that's never ending. And I think that's been a key component to where we're at this particular stage of the season. The last thing I want to hit on before I open it up for questions is just, Coach Ott has done a tremendous job. He has created an environment where our guys are allowed and given permission to become the very best version of themselves, not only as players but as men as well, and that's critical. That's something that's very important to us. He coaches hard every day. He holds guys accountable, but he has built tremendous relationships with all our players, which I think you see on the court. I think you see with the camaraderie amongst the team. And all those things have been very critical for us getting to this point. And the other thing with that is sometimes you lose sight of all the other people that are working as well. His assistants have done a great job. Their relationship, their ability to push players, their ability to encourage players, their ability to have communication pieces with players that help them get through tough patches and different things like that has been very, very important. So they've done a great job. And to be honest with you, we've made changes within the whole organization, within this 5G and over in HQ as well, that we are creating now an environment where when a player comes in, from the coaching to the player development to the human performance to the medical piece to, again, the community involvement, the family environment, we are creating environments here where players come in and they know they're going to have career years during their time here in Phoenix. And that is very, very important, not only for our current players, but as we move forward into the future as well. And there's a piece that comes from the coaching, there's a piece that comes from our operations staff, from our medical staff. All those things are critical in building what we want to build and sustaining that as well. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.